mercenaries who have already killed 4 hostages and disposed of their remains. As they cannot locate the target, the troops receive a sitrep from their comrades that they will move to another location. Meanwhile, Ray finds the target area and hears the mercenaries talking inside a building. This prompts him to stand outside and move to another location. Meanwhile, Ray finds the by firing from inside. Ray takes out a stun grenade from his pocket and throws it inside, making the mercenaries temporarily blind as well as lose hearing and balance. He then immediately asks, despite the lieutenant's order, to hold on to the breach, single-handedly taking out all the targets with his rifle before going searching for further hostages. As Ray inspects the ground floor, he suddenly hears creaks on the ceiling, so he goes upstairs. On the second floor, he reloads his rifles and shoots more of the mercenaries. Once they are all down, Ray throws a smoke grenade into a room and silently enters, where he finds the last mercenary pointing his gun at the hostage's head. He slowly approaches them, but stops when the mercenary orders him to drop his rifle. Afterward, he inquires about what the mercenary wants, learning that he needs Ray's forces to pull back and a helicopter to flee with. Ray orders his teammate to hold fire while negotiating a deal with the mercenary before providing him with a chopper. He asks the mercenary where he keeps the phone, and as soon as the guy turns his head to show him, Ray pulls out the gun and shoots him. This leads Ray and his troops to a successful rescue operation as they get their target hostage secured from the mercenaries. After that, the U.S. military aircraft transports them to Aviano Air Base in Italy, where the U.S. Air Force has permitted them to spend their vacation anywhere inside the country. Since that is the case, Ray feels happy to be able to reunite with his wife, Gina Garrison, who is waiting for his arrival on their base. They will finally get the opportunity to spend time together and enjoy the holiday by going to a coastal village in Italy located on the Amalfi Coast. Once Ray and Gina reach their destination, they immediately drop themselves at a hotel to get some rest. The following day, when Ray wakes up, there is a letter from Gina telling him that she is going out to get something for their breakfast. While waiting for Gina to return, he goes to take a bath when suddenly 2 mercenaries appear from within the room and abduct him. Soon after, Ray discovers he is being held captive by a bunch of mercenaries while strapped to a chair. Martin Axe, the leader of the group, eventually appears in front of Ray and confronts him about the involvement of the U.S. military in their objective to take hostages. Ray remains silent, so Martin presents him with Gina, who is also abducted by them, and presses him once more for information about who gave him the heads up to intervene in their hostage-taking in Mombosa. But Ray still refused to disclose anything, claiming he was merely following orders and had no idea who might have tipped him off. In light of this, Martin brutally murders Gina in front of him, who promises vengeance after witnessing the act. But before he can do anything, Martin already takes his life. And yet, Ray wakes up later at the Rising Spirit Technologies laboratory, where he is in an experiment led by the head scientist, Dr. Emil Harding. Harding is taken aback when Ray regains consciousness and remains stable, so he and his colleague, KT, immediately visit him. Once inside Ray's room, Harding explains to him that the U.S. military usually lets RST take over disabled military veterans and other military patients so that the cutting-edge biotechnology here can cure them. But Ray's case is exceptional because he was the test subject of their experimental nanite technology, which brings him back from the dead. This makes him the first successfully resurrected RST human subject of the RST's Bloodshot program to have his whole bloodstream replaced with nanites. This piques Ray's interest, and he demands Harding to break down every aspect of nanotechnology for him. After showing him the operating room and saying they work on developing methods to increase the speed and strength of the military's armed forces, Harding then brings Ray to his private laboratory room and suddenly slashes his hand to demonstrate the nanites. He reveals that the nanites are helping his body recover from injuries, and it can also make him stronger. However, Harding cautions Ray that his nanites can run low, so they need to be recharged regularly to keep them from wearing out and causing him to die again. As the demonstration is over, he brings Ray to the rehabilitation center, introducing him to fellow patients like former U.S. Army Ranger Marcus Tibbs, who enhanced his sight with ocular prosthetics, and former Navy SEAL Jimmy Dalton, who engineered his feet. Even though Ray has already met KT, a female ex-swimmer for the United States Navy, Harding introduces her again, saying that KT's enhancements are her larynx and trachea, which allows her to breathe through clavicle-mounted respirations. Later at night, Ray struggles to sleep because he dreams of Gina and Martin and gets out of bed. He goes to the rehabilitation facility to work out, but stops when he sees KT taking late-night diving. They chat and both decide on having a drink to relieve themselves from trouble sleeping. While imbibing, Ray unexpectedly hears the music Martin played while killing them, and he is immediately taken back to the moment when his wife was murdered. This prompts him to leave the RST and seek revenge for Gina's death by killing Martin. He hacks into RST's system with his nanites and utilizes the information to pinpoint Martin's precise location. When Ray learns that he is in Budapest, Hungary, he doesn't waste much time getting there and killing everyone connected to Martin, including the security personnel. Meanwhile, Harding observes Ray on the RST computer screen, witnessing firsthand how effectively Ray dispatches his targets. It is then revealed that Harding plots on making the Bloodshot program successful and eliminating every former associate who betrayed him, using Ray as his weapon. Therefore, he issues an instant order to KT, Tibbs, and Dalton to take Ray back to the facility. Once Ray returns, Harding puts him to sleep and orders Eric, his co-scientist, to begin resetting his nanites and alter his recollection of Gina's death, replacing the person who kills her from Martin to a person named Nick Barris. KT protests this plan of Harding, but he ignores her and even threatens to shut her enhancements down if she tries to get in the way. When Ray awakens again with no memories, Harding pretends to be surprised again and begins reintroducing RST and the new developments in his body. As Harding continues to speak, Ray starts recalling Gina's death, in which he accuses Barris of kidnapping and brutally killing her. Livid, Ray leaves the RST again and follows Barris to East Sussex using his nanites. However, as Harding observes Barris's hideout via computer, he becomes suspicious seeing an unfamiliar man conversing with Barris. So he asks Eric about him and learns that he is Wilfred Wiggins, a skilled programmer and an open-source contributor to many of his innovations, including the nanites. This alarms Harding and KT, but their worries escalate when they find out that Wiggins is ordered by Barris to come here because Barris can't stop panicking, knowing that Harding will send someone to kill him. He forces Wiggins to place an electromagnetic pulse bomb that can incapacitate Ray in the room. Wiggins then sets it in motion and hands Barris the remote, telling him to wait until the EMP bomb is fully charged before detonating it. Once Barris fully notes the instruction, he orders Wiggins to leave and return to his office. Harding immediately orders Ray to stay away from the place, but something is intercepting their signal. Meanwhile, Ray finally reaches Barris's office and starts accusing him of the murder of his wife, which makes Barris confused, explaining that he is not involved with the murder and the RST is probably lying to him. But with his rebooted memory, Ray refuses to believe Barris and unhesitatingly shoots him. He then attempts to leave the office when suddenly Wiggins activates the EMP bomb using the other remote control. As a consequence, Ray's nanites shut down, breaking his connection to the RST. When Ray falls to the ground, Wiggins immediately takes him to his office, where he uses higher voltage to wake him up and make his nanites function again. Once Ray awakens, Wiggins clarifies that he is not an enemy and proves it by taking off the bonds on his hands. Seeing that Ray is persuaded, he flips the lights back on and keeps eating his noodles while introducing himself to Ray and boasting about his extraordinary coding abilities. He also makes it clear that he is under duress to work for Barris. As Wiggins continues, a slew of conflicting recollections suddenly strikes Ray, in which the identity of the person who murdered Gina blurs. Ray then tells Wiggins about it, and Wiggins explains that RST resurrected him so they could manipulate him and kill every defector of Harding's creation. Now that Ray has figured out the truth, he attempts to return to the RST facility to take down Harding, but Wiggins refuses to release him, claiming that Harding will just take control of Ray and modify his memories to make it look like Wiggins was the one who murdered his wife. Ray then cuts his hand to release several nanites, showing it to Wiggins, and asks him to reverse engineer the nanites since he is confident in his ability to reprogram anything. Meanwhile, thinking that Gina is probably alive since his memory has been manipulated, Ray leaves for a while to track her down with a phone Wiggins gives him that can connect to a satellite and make the search easy. On the other hand, having lost contact with Ray, Harding presses Eric, demanding him to fix it. Eric, stressed out and frightened, finds the car Ray is riding. Harding then instructs him to tell Tibbs and Dalton to follow it. Concurrently, Ray finally finds out that Gina is in London and immediately visits her place. He rings the doorbell and Gina opens the door for him. It is a shock to Ray that she is still alive, but it comes as an even bigger shock to him when Gina says they broke up 5 years ago. She has put the past behind her and begun a new chapter in her life with her loved ones. Ray gets confused at first, but when he sees a child approaching Gina, he suddenly gets silent and leaves without saying goodbye to her. As Ray drives back to Wiggins' office, Tibbs and Dalton find him and intentionally crash their vehicle into Ray's car. Ray jumps out of the car immediately, but Dalton quickly electrifies his nanites by shooting him. Dalton then attempts to fire again, but Ray exerts all his strength to recover his nanites and throws a piece of steel at him. Afterward, Ray flees the area while Dalton grunts in frustration as he cannot catch him. Pissed off, he orders Tibbs to find Ray's location before he drives off to get him again. Tibbs then activates every tracker in the sky, and once he tracks him down, he signals Dalton and keeps providing pins detailing Ray's whereabouts. Dalton catches Ray on the road, but both of them are driven over by a truck, and Dalton's robotic legs break. Conversely, Ray's cybernetic upgrades keep him from ever getting hurt. Ray then rushes over to attack the vulnerable Dalton, but Tibbs thumps a jackknife across his back, rendering him unconscious. Afterward, they take Ray back to the RST laboratory to reset his nanites and modify his memories. After re-establishing contact with Ray and seizing control over him once more, Harding orders KT to capture and kill him to prevent the exposure of the Project Bloodshot, but KT refuses to follow his order. However, Harding deactivates her enhancements and reminds KT that he has the means to eliminate her at any time if she ever again refuses to cooperate. He then activates her enhancement again, and KT has no choice but to do his command in capturing Wiggins. Soon after landing in London, KT gets a call from Eric informing her that Wiggins is in the Monteverde in Soho and has brought guards with him. KT then takes mental note of Eric's detailed description of Wiggins and patiently awaits his arrival at the front door. When she finally spots him emerging from the building, she launches her strategic attack by borrowing a lighter from him and blowing smoke right at his face until he passes out. KT then knocks off Wiggins' guards to ensure that no one would stop her from capturing Wiggins. But instead of murdering Wiggins, she plots a scheme with him against RST. KT has favored him for his potential assistance in her plan to escape RST's control and destroy the company's Bloodshot project. A while later, she returns to the RST facility alone and tells Harding that Wiggins managed to escape since he was anticipating her arrival. She then places the responsibility on Eric, saying he was careless in his search for Wiggins, leading to Harding's disappointment. Having exhausted all other options, Harding implements his backup plan, which entails giving Eric strict instructions to implant in Ray's memories that Wiggins must be killed. This prompts KT to storm out of the laboratory and immediately proceed to the control room, where she disrupts Ray's reprogramming process. She alters the sim and connects it to Wiggins' computer to let him do the rest. On the other hand, Harding quickly realizes that KT has tampered with the simulator and rushes to the command center to stop her. But it's too late. Wiggins has already gained access to the RST administration and takes complete control of the awakened Ray. In preparation for Harding's arrival in the control room, KT suits up in body armor laden with smoke grenades. Once inside, Harding makes another attempt to use his remote to shut down KT's rebreather, only to find that he has been locked out. KT throws the smoke grenade at him and runs out of the command center. Afterward, she initiates Phase 2 of their operation and destroys the RST technologies using canisters. Meanwhile, Harding informs Dalton and Tibbs that KT has gone rogue and Ray is awake and offline, and commands them to find Ray, shut him down, and eliminate him if necessary. In the light of this, Dalton and Tibbs instantly put on their combat gears and grab their high-tech weaponry. Tibbs tracks down Ray with the help of the cybernetic eyes monitoring system, while Dalton is on the mission of bringing him to heel. As they begin their task, Tibbs spots Ray on his way to the 74th floor level and notifies Dalton. Dalton, anticipating Ray's arrival on the floor, activates his advanced technology weapon and waits for an opportunity to attack. As expected, a battle breaks out between the two. However, it soon becomes clear that Ray is too powerful to be stopped alone, causing them difficulty recapturing him. Their battle gets more intense when the building begins to collapse and Dalton lets Tibbs fall even though he hears him yelling for aid. Dalton has no remorse and is solely focused on destroying Ray, but also gets killed when Ray falls, dragging him off the building. Ray, on the other hand, survives due to the nanites that protect him from damage. Afterward, he prevents Harding from driving away by throwing Dalton's artificial leg extension in his direction. This causes Harding to get out of the car and pull out his modified weapon to fire at him, trying to wear off the nanites in Ray's system. But Ray does not worry about him getting killed and proceeds to walk toward Harding. That forces Harding to reload his gun with a new grenade launcher and fire at him again. He expects that Ray will finally stop since his nanites levels are depleting. However, Ray is eager to eliminate Harding despite knowing he can almost put himself at risk of death once the nanites in his body overclock and get destroyed. He pulls the pin on a grenade that the nanites disassembled and detonates it just as Harding manages to choke him, ensuring their mutual demise. After a while, Ray wakes up and sees Wiggins sitting beside him, who manages to bring him back to life. Wiggins also enhanced Ray's physical endurance, making his nanites completely independent. The movie ends with Ray getting a fresh start in life with his new family, Wiggins and KT.
"800 years ago, Calder and his friends are working as witch hunters, looking for the witch that has cursed their town with the Black Plague, which has killed dozens of families. When they make it to the center of the forest, they discover the Witch Queen is behind this, and she kills the first soldier by summoning a swarm from his mouth. Then she brings up a few undead to attack them, and Calder immediately lights his sword on fire to keep them at bay. A fierce battle ensues, and while his friends defend themselves from the evil creatures, Calder goes after the queen, only to find a toy on the ground that reminds him of his dead family. Calder realizes this isn't real, and when he snaps out of the illusion, he begins fighting the Witch Queen directly. The queen pushes him through a hole on the tree and traps him with her roots, but Calder lights the sword again and starts a huge fire. Then he stabs the queen to kill her. However, as she dies, the queen curses Calder with immortality so that he'll forever live with his suffering loneliness. In modern day, Calder is still alive and working as a witch hunter. Currently he's on a plane, and when he breathes against the window, he sees a symbol indicating the presence of magic. Using a pin on a glass of water as a compass, Calder finds the witch and gets rid of the person on the seat next to her by spilling the water on his lap. It turns out this witch is traveling with some ancient runes in her bag, and that's causing a storm that will make the plane crash soon. In fact, the plane suddenly begins to shake, but Calder grabs the runes and deactivates them, making the storm instantly go away. Sometime later, Calder visits his dear friend the 36th Dolan, who works for the Axe and Cross organization like him. It's revealed that witches still exist and are allowed to live alongside humans as long as they don't use magic against them. Calder only intervenes when it's necessary to keep peace. The Dolan will be retiring soon after 50 years of service, so Calder gives him an antique pen to. He also learns that his friends has already chosen the 37th Dolan, a young man that vows to watch out for Calder. Afterward, the 36th Dolan takes a cab to go home while the mysterious Belial watches from afar. The next day, Calder receives a call informing him that the 36th Dolan died in his sleep last night. Devastated by the news, Calder goes to watch the ceremony in which the young man is officially declared 37th Dolan with a burning mark on his arm. Then the two of them go to the dead Dolan's apartment to investigate the death. Calder uses the usual tricks to check for elemental magic, like the breath on the window and a lighter, but there aren't any signs. However, when he's about to leave, he finds 3 dead insects and finds it suspicious. He uses a special powder on the floor and reveals a pentagram, which suddenly explodes and makes runes appear on the walls. This confirms the entire room has been cursed with the rare black magic and that his friend was murdered. When looking further, Calder discovers the pen is gone. He also finds a book with a bloody fingerprint and begins suspecting the new Dolan, but the guy reveals his burned hands to prove his innocence. When he was a kid, some witches set his house on fire, and it had been Calder who saved him from it. Afterward, the duo goes to the local bakery and force their way into the kitchen, where people are cooking with creepy ingredients. The powerful witch Max is there selling illegal uppers and tries to escape with a cloud of butterflies when he hears them, but Calder blocks his way by capturing the butterflies in a jar. Max says he knows nothing about a user of dark magic, but after Calder insists with a threatening tone, Max explains he sold a forbidden herb to a stranger. Max is blind so he can't describe the guy, but he smelled the scent of arsenic and rotten apples on his body. This gives Calder the idea the killer is in a funeral parlor near an apple tree, so he sends the Dolan home for his safety and goes to investigate alone. Meanwhile, a kid is shocked to find a trail of gummy bears on the streets and follows it to find a beautiful gummy tree near a bright house where Belial is watching. When the kid grabs the gummies, Calder stops him and reveals they are actually rotten apples. The house turns old and ugly, and when Calder enters to investigate, he finds a young scared girl. Calder approaches her only to discover she's a warlock in disguise called Alec. The warlock tries to attack Calder and stabs his hand before running away. Calder's wound quickly closes and goes after Ellis, throwing a knife to stuck him on a wall. After finding Dolan's gift pen, Calder knocks Alec out and takes him to the Council of Witches, where the 37th takes the chance to punch Alec for revenge. The council leader Glazer uses card reading to prove Alec is guilty, and she ignores Calder when he says Alec couldn't have been working alone considering the powerful spell he used. Glazer summons a terrifying creature known as the Sentinel and feeds Alec to it without hesitation. Then Calder notices a dead insect on Glazer's clothes, giving him an idea. He checks on the 36th Dolan's body and uses a carved candle to prove the presence of magic. Then he checks Dolan's neck and finds another insect that proves he isn't dead. He's actually been cursed by old-school black magic. The only way to get rid of the curse is to kill the warlock that cast it. Since Alec is dead, this proves he was working for someone. Calder also notices a cut on Dolan's finger and goes to recheck the book, finding multiple bloody fingerprints left on purpose to form a message: remember your death. Since Calder doesn't remember his early life, he goes to a witch bar for help. His mere presence scares all the witches away except for the owner Chloe, who Calder asks for a memory spell. Chloe is hesitant to help a witch hunter because he hunts her kind, but she accepts when Calder explains it's for the sake of a friend. She proceeds to put a memory potion inside a cherry, and when Calder eats it, he suddenly finds himself in the cursed woods, seeing his own charred corpse kneeling on the ground. However, when he's about to see more, Belial shows up and pulls him out of the spell. When Calder suddenly finds himself chained to the floor. By breaking his fingers, he manages to get his hand through the cuffs and frees himself before going after Belial, triggering a fight. Unfortunately, Calder is still under the effects of the spell and keeps seeing hallucinations, so he can't fight well. Belial uses the chance to set the bar on fire, leaving Chloe to bring Calder back from his trance. Calder thinks she's the queen and tries to kill her, but she blows a powder into his face and wakes him up just in time. Calder tries to catch Belial again, but Belial opens a root hole on the floor and disappears. Chloe tries to use a fire extinguisher to no avail and laments the loss of her bar because it's all she had, so she says Calder is a monster like everyone says. Later in the evening, Chloe hears a weird noise in her apartment and suddenly all the lights explode, allowing roots to open another hole in the floor and drag her down to hell. Chloe tries to struggle free from their grasp and notices Calder's hand helping her, but at that moment she wakes up and finds herself in the cathedral. Calder and the 37th Dolan are researching Belial, and Calder asks Chloe for help again, convincing her to collaborate to get revenge for her bar. Chloe accepts, but with her bar gone she needs ingredients for the potion, so she takes Calder to a friend's house. When they arrive there, Chloe is devastated to discover her friend has been murdered and all the important plants were stolen. At that moment she gets a call coming from her friend's phone, but it's Belial with a message threatening them with more attacks incoming. Since they don't have other choice, Calder goes to see the dangerous witch Danique, who accepts to lend them the plants. However, while Chloe is distracted checking the plant, Calder suddenly begins seeing illusions of his family. It turns out Danique is a traitor, and while her employees catch Chloe, Calder gets trapped in a memory spell. He enjoys seeing his family again, but his happiness is interrupted by Chloe, who keeps talking and pushing until he wakes up. Back in reality, Calder finds himself being dragged away by Danique's men. He immediately knocks them all out and finds Chloe, freeing her before interrogating Danique. The witch swears she doesn't know Belial's intentions, she only got him the plants he needed. Calder decides to leave without punishing her, but Chloe takes revenge by stealing Danique's magical gem and destroying it, which reveals Danique's real hideous face. Afterward, Calder has a chat with Chloe and confirms she's a dreamwalker, meaning she shouldn't need potions to get into someone's mind. Chloe confesses she's afraid of her ability because when she used it on her brother he died, so Calder takes her to a sacred place that shows the history of witches. After teaching her of her legacy, he reminds her he can't die and guides her through the process of seeing his mind. The duo revisits the night of the curse and finds Calder's charred body, which roared when his friends came closer. When the first Dolan tried to destroy the Queen's heart, Calder began screaming in pain, meaning they couldn't kill the Queen without killing Calder too. The heart was kept hidden, and Chloe realizes Belial killed 36 Dolan because he knew where the heart is and will use it to bring the Queen back. Meanwhile, Belial kidnaps Max to take him to the old woods, where he puts it against a tree to sacrifice him to the Witch Queen as he summons it with the heart. Back to Calder, he goes to the cathedral and yells at the 37th Dolan because nobody in the organization ever told him they hid the heart. The young man responds the 36th Dolan had been considering destroying the heart to grant Calder his freedom. He also provides Calders with the location of Belial's truck, which can be tracked. Moments later, Calder arrives at the woods and discovers Max has been possessed by the Witch Queen. Chloe suddenly appears behind him, but when Calder gets distracted, Belial drops the illusion and attacks Calder with fire magic followed by a few shots. However, Calder's fast and quickly throws a knife to kill him. The Queen uses this distraction to stab Calder with a root and retrieve the immortality, explaining she hadn't gifted it to him. He has just been keeping it safe until she could regain her body. Max loses his shape and transforms into the Queen, who attacks Calder with a magic swarm, but when Calder responds with a shot, she disappears into the tree. Calder rushes back to the city and discovers the 36th Dolan has reawakened. However, Calder isn't happy. He knows the Queen will cast a black plague curse and he can't do anything to stop her. The Dolan reminds Calder he already killed the Queen once and encourages him to try again. Determined to prove himself to his friend, Calder retrieves a legendary sword plus a bunch of runes to arm himself. Then he leaves with Chloe and the 37th Dolan to visit the council room, where the plague tree is kept away from evil hands. Glazer is found dead, confirming the Queen is here to unleash the plague. They follow a secret corridor into the cave where the council kept the arrested witches, and Calder breaks a wall to release Alec's body, which is chanting away the plague spell. While Chloe enters Alec's mind, the Sentinel shows up. It is met with fire from Calder and Dolan, but bullets do nothing. Calder is pushed away, but he quickly recovers and jumps on top of the Sentinel to stab him with the sword and shoot right into its weak spot, making it explode. Meanwhile, Chloe appears in Alec's mind and tries to stab him, but Alec jumps on her and pushes her down to kill her. After some struggling, Chloe manages to push back and throws Alec into the root hole, which instantly stops the chanting of the plague spell. While Chloe returns to reality, Calder goes after the Queen, who creates the illusion of a post-apocalyptic world to fight Calder there. Because Calder is mortal now, every hit leaves a scar on him. After exchanging a few hits, Calder manages to stab the Queen, but this only gets rid of the illusion. Back in reality, Calder uses a rune to light his sword on fire and knocks down the Queen again, but when he is about to land the final blow, he's interrupted by the 37th Dolan, who shows up holding Chloe at gunpoint. It turns out he's a witch too, but he isn't capable of using magic, and the witches Calder killed when he was a kid were his parents. The Dolan shoots Calder and hands Chloe to the Witch Queen, who immediately uses her to start the chanting again and finally releases the plague all over the city. Dolan hopes he'll be granted magic as a reward, but the Queen sees magicless people as useless and kills him with her swarm. Meanwhile, an unconscious Calder begins dreaming about his family, who support him and motivate him to try again. Calder wakes up and uses the weather rune from the plane on the sword to activate a lightning effect. He proceeds to throw it at the Queen, effectively killing her and gaining back immortality. As his wounds heal, the plague disappears from the city. The Queen's body crumbles in ashes, but the heart is still beating. Calder wants to stab it, not caring about his own future, but Chloe stops him by explaining the world still needs him to keep fighting witches. She also promises she'll keep the heart safe and won't let him be alone again. Sometime later, Calder tells the 36th Dolan that he won't work for the organization anymore, then leaves with Chloe to find their next adventure.
Steve Rogers is a small, skinny kid who constantly gets bullied by those around him. It's the middle of World War II and he decides that he wants to enlist in the military to help out. But he's half the size of every other man there, and has a bunch of different conditions and diseases. He's so pathetic that the army refused to let him join as he would be too much of a liability. He respects everyone that fights for their country, and his only wish is to do the same. Steve hates bullies and stands up to them whenever he has the chance. However, it usually ends with him getting beaten up and thrown around like a rag doll. He does have one friend, Bucky Barnes, who defends him whenever he can. Unfortunately, Bucky is leaving to go to war tomorrow, so Steve will soon be all alone. They decide to spend one last night together at a science expo and meet with two pretty girls. But they are both interested in Bucky and neither one of them pay attention to Steve. Probably because he's 5'3". A man named Howard Stark is on stage showing off his new invention, a flying car. Even though it fails, everyone is still impressed. While Bucky is distracted by the show, Steve sneaks off to try and get into the army again. There is a recruitment center at the expo. His friend tracks him down and tells him it's a bad idea. Even if he gets into the army, he is too weak and could end up dying. Steve insists on trying again. He believes it's his responsibility as a man to protect those around him. A strange doctor overhears their conversation, and when Steve tries to enlist, the doctor enters and starts asking him questions. He finds out Steve has applied to join the army over 5 times and wants to know why he wants to kill Germans so badly. Steve explains that he doesn't want to kill anyone and just hates bullies. The doctor decides to give the skinny kid a chance and approves his enlistment form. Meanwhile, a German man named Johann Schmidt is trying to build weapons of mass destruction. He has recently discovered a blue glowy cube known as the Tesseract, and wants to use it to help Germany win the war. With the help of his assistant, he manages to harness unlimited energy from the Tesseract, and realizes that he can use this power to take over the world. Elsewhere, Steve is going through basic training. The doctor has created a serum that can turn anyone into a super soldier, giving them immense strength, power, and endurance. But he is only able to give it to one person and thinks Steve is the right man, and so does Agent Peggy Carter, who takes a liking to Steve when she sees that despite his shortcomings, he continues to keep pushing forward and never gives up. However, the Colonel doesn't like him and thinks it's a waste of time trying to train such a puny man. To use the serum on Steve would be like throwing money down the drain. Steve starts to wonder why the doctor wants him to be a super soldier when everyone else is clearly so much better than him. The doctor explains that it is because Steve is a good man, who only wants to help others even though the world is horrible to him. His muscles may be tiny, but his heart is big. The day of the procedure arrives, and Peggy takes Steve to a secret facility, hidden underneath an antique store. It is filled with doctors and nurses who are ready to inject him with their juices. He takes off his shirt and enters a weird-looking machine. The Colonel watches from above with some of his colleagues. Howard Stark is also there working with the doctor. The machine closes and the procedure begins. He gets injected with the serum, but he starts screaming out in pain. Peggy yells out to stop or he will die. Before Howard can turn the machine off, Steve tells him not to, and says that he can do this. The procedure continues, and when it is finished, the machine doors open, revealing a fine specimen of a man with juicy muscles. He is no longer a weakling, and everyone is shocked. Suddenly, a man in a suit steals a vial of the serum and shoots the doctor before running away. With his last dying breath, the doctor reminds Steve to always be a good man. Steve chases after the thief as fast as he can, surprised that he is now able to run super fast without getting tired and can jump over fences with ease. He starts jumping from car to car until he lands on the vehicle the thief is driving. While trying to shake Steve off, the driver crashes the car and is forced to continue on foot. He takes a hostage and shoots at him, trying his best to get away. When he runs out of bullets, he disposes of the hostage and gets into a high-tech submarine. But Steve is so powerful now that he is able to catch the submarine and the thief with ease. Realizing he doesn't stand a chance, the thief ends his own subscription to life. Before dying, he says 2 words, "Hail Hydra." Hydra is a German organization that wants to win the war and take over the world. Schmidt is their leader, and he has been busy creating a super weapon, capable of decimating every country on Earth, even Germany. Schmidt wants to create a new world where Hydra is in control. When some German soldiers find out what he is doing, they don't like it, but he deletes them before they have a chance to warn anyone. His assistant, Zola, starts to worry that Schmidt has gone crazy. When Steve finds out about Hydra, he wants to go after them. The Colonel doesn't want him and says the procedure was a waste. Steve is just one man and there's nothing he can do for them. Feeling defeated, Steve starts to work as a performer, dressing in red, white, and blue and calling himself Captain America. He entertains people all over the country, providing them morale during the war. He becomes famous and even gets his own comic book. However, Steve isn't happy with his new life and feels like he could be doing more to help. One day, Peggy comes to one of his shows to see him. She mentions that the Colonel sent a regiment to go and deal with Hydra, but out of 200 men, only 15 returned. The rest were killed or captured. Steve realizes that his best friend Bucky was one of the soldiers that were captured, and he wants to get him back. But the Colonel isn't interested. He says it would be too dangerous and he doesn't have enough men. Steve decides he is going to go and get Bucky back all by himself. Peggy and Howard help by flying him to the Hydra base. When they arrive, Steve jumps out of the plane and parachutes to the surface. He gets into the base by sneaking into a truck and slowly makes his way to the prisoners without getting spotted. But Bucky isn't there with them. The prisoners all rush out of their cell and start to attack the Hydra guards, even stealing their own weapons to use against them. It doesn't take long for them to get control of the base. When Schmidt sees this, he pushes a self-destruct button that will destroy the base in 6 minutes, giving himself and Zola enough time to escape. After searching the base, Steve manages to find Bucky, who is happy to see him. He is surprised to see that Steve is now 6 feet tall and built like a white Ronnie Coleman. When the timer reaches 0, the base starts to explode. Steve bumps into Schmidt and punches him in the face. The two fight and Schmidt is able to knock the super soldier to the floor. It is revealed that many years ago, Schmidt took the super serum himself. However, it wasn't fully completed yet and had terrible side effects, making Schmidt all red and deformed. Then he takes an elevator to the roof where he flies away, leaving Bucky and Steve to die in the burning building. A while later, the Colonel and Peggy start to worry about Steve and believe that he is dead. Suddenly, a group of soldiers emerge from the forest. It's the regiment that were originally captured, with Steve and Bucky at the front, leading them. They are all still alive, and the Colonel is happy to see them. All the soldiers cheer for Captain America. After earning the Colonel's respect, Steve puts together a team of soldiers to take down Hydra. Over the past year, he has grown from an invisible weakling to a famous hero, and he starts to get a lot of attention from women. One of them even kiss him, which makes Peggy jealous. He talks with Howard about designing a new Captain America uniform and even gets a new shield, made of vibranium, the strongest metal in the universe. With his new team, he travels to Hydra bases all around the country, taking them down. He is finally the soldier he always dreamed of being. His next mission is to hijack a Hydra train and capture Zola. Using a zipline, he lands on top of it and sneaks inside with Bucky. The two of them get separated and attacked. Using his new shield, Steve is able to take out a metal man with no problems, but Bucky is being cornered. Steve helps him out, and together they are able to defeat the Hydra soldiers. However, another metal man appears out of nowhere and shoots them, blowing a hole in the train. Steve knocks him out using his shield, but Bucky is hanging off the train. He tries to save his friend, but the railing snaps, causing Bucky to fall to his death. Even though Steve lost his best friend, the mission was still a success. They have captured Zola, and the Colonel interrogates him to find out information about Hydra. It doesn't take long for Zola to snitch on Schmidt. He tells the Colonel all about his plans to take over the world. Tomorrow, he plans on using his weapons of mass destruction to destroy every major city on Earth. Elsewhere, Steve mourns his friend while Peggy comforts him. He says that he is going after Schmidt. He's not going to stop until all of Hydra is dead or captured. Schmidt is in the final Hydra base, which is hidden in the Alps. The next day, Steve rides there on his motorcycle looking for revenge. He takes out some soldiers and a tank, then he crashes his bike into the front door, blowing it up. He does his best, but there are just too many soldiers and he gets outnumbered. They capture Steve and take him to Schmidt, who beats him. Bullets fly everywhere as Hydra tries its best to survive. Schmidt realizes his plan is falling apart and starts to fly away on his super jet. The Tesseract is on the plane, and with it he can rule the world. Steve runs after him, but he isn't fast enough. Fortunately, the Colonel and Peggy arrive just in time to offer him a ride. Using the car, they are able to catch up to the plane before it takes off. Steve gives Peggy a sloppy kiss before jumping onto the wheel, safely making it onto the plane. He sees a bunch of bombs which are all labeled for different cities. If he doesn't stop Schmidt, a lot of people are going to suffer. He makes his way to the cockpit where he finds the Red Man. The two of them get into an intense fight and almost cause the plane to crash. But luckily, Schmidt manages to put it into autopilot. He then shoots at Steve, gloating about how he will be victorious. Steve dodges his bullets and throws his shield, which hits the bony demon and also the Tesseract, causing it to malfunction. Schmidt picks up the cube, hoping to fix it, but it starts to burn through his hand. The Tesseract is too powerful and he never should have messed with it. A wormhole opens up above the two of them and Schmidt gets sucked in, leaving only the cube behind. The Red Skull has been defeated, but Steve still has to deal with the bombs and he doesn't have a lot of time. He realizes that he is going to have to crash the plane. It's the only way. He talks with Peggy over the radio and explains everything to her. She's really upset as she enjoyed their sloppy kiss earlier. Steve crashes the plane into the Arctic, saving the world but sacrificing himself. World War II ends and everyone is happy. However, after years of searching, no one can find Captain America's body or the plane that he crashed. It got lost in the ice, until 66 years later when his body was found frozen. And surprisingly, he was still alive after all this time. After being unfrozen, he wakes up in a hospital in New York and is greeted by a cute nurse. He quickly realizes that something isn't right and tries to leave the hospital. When he realizes it was fake, he runs into the street where he is shocked by what he sees. He was in the year 1945, but now all of a sudden it is 2011 and everything is different. A A black guy in an eye patch comes along and explains to Steve that he has been asleep for almost 70 years. The movie ends with Steve realizing that this is all real, and his old life is gone.
After finding a robot dog that has escaped from a secret base, a young man begins to be chased by the army and will need the help of the android animal to survive. Today we're going to recap AXL. At Crane Laboratories, a company that supplies weapons to the army, the chief designer named Andric is trying to create a war dog called Axel, when during the first phase of testing, the prototype goes out of control and ends up escaping from the lab. To retrieve it, the man asks the assistant engineer to release the drones that begin searching for the lost creature. While his devices are searching, Andric receives a call from Captain Alicia Weber, the army representative who hired Crane to build the AXL, tired of waiting. The woman says that the demonstration will take place in 2 days and asks for immediate access to the prototype, but as the drones haven't found it yet, Andric has to string the American army along until they recover Axel. A young man called Miles is taking part in a motocross race when, at the last corner, he ends up being hit by another competitor and falls off the bike with such force that his chain splits in half. Frustrated, Miles carries the vehicle to his father and asks for the extra chain, but Chuck replies that was already the spare and now they don't have any. In order to continue in the race, the man goes to the pit of another team's competitor and asks if they have a chain to replace the broken one. Even though they are rivals, Sam, the driver who knocked Miles down, agrees to help and asks one of the employees to deliver the object, but the team boss refuses to help, saying that he only has one left and that they will need it for the next race. At a loss for what to do, they return to the pits while being followed by Sarah, one of Sam's team members who has decided to pick up a hidden chain and give it to Miles on her own, allowing him to fix the bike for the next race. After the start, Sam stayed in the lead for most of the time, until as they neared the end, Miles managed to overtake him and take first place, winning the last race of the day. After the dispute, Chuck and his son are storing the tools in the van when Sam shows up to invite the young man to a party at his house. As he has to work the next morning, Miles refuses the invitation and Chuck waits for his opponent to leave to try to convince his son to go, because according to him, Sam's father has a lot of contacts, and if they manage to make friends, maybe they can get a sponsor so they don't have to ask for chains next time. Convinced by his father, Miles goes to the party where Sam and his friends are doing stunts and broadcasting everything live to show off in front of everyone. Sam takes an industrial blowtorch and asks his friend to burn it while he sets fire to an abandoned car, but Miles doesn't feel comfortable and decides to go somewhere else while no one is looking. From the pool, Sarah sees the young man leaving and decides to go after him, finding him in the garage with Sam's motorcycle collection. After staying late at the party with the girl, Miles goes home and starts washing his bike on the sidewalk when Sam passes by and invites him to record some videos on the track. Even though he's sleepy, the young man accepts and does several maneuvers one after the other. But when he decides to take a break, Sam is responsible for distracting him while his friends open the bike's tank and pour in several cans of energy drink. Unaware that he has been sabotaged, Miles starts the vehicle and goes for another maneuver, but when he reaches the end of the ramp, the bike stops working and he ends up losing control during the jump, crashing to the ground. While Miles rides in pain, Sam only cares about the recording and leaves as soon as he realizes that the images are good, leaving only half a gallon of gasoline and some clothes for the young man. Even in pain, Chuck's son gets up and empties the tank, putting in the new gas and trying to start the bike, but while he's doing everything he can to get it started, he hears strange sounds coming from inside an old container and decides to go closer to see what's going on. Frightened, Miles approaches apprehensively and enters the metal structure where he meets Axel, who marks him as the new target. Desperate, the young man runs to the motorcycle and manages to start it, driving away as fast as he can, but instead of leaving, the genius has the idea of going back to see the creature again, and is surprised by it. With almost half a ton of steel rushing towards him, Miles speeds up as fast as he can and uses the abandoned buildings to try to lose Axel, causing the creature to hit a truck. Even so, the cyberpunk dog is still after him and Miles decides to jump down a ramp, causing Axel to activate Boost to try and catch up with him in the air. Because of this, the dog ends up making a mistake and flips over at an absurd speed, crashing into some hardware. From afar, Miles hears Axel's sounds of pain and decides to go closer to see what has happened, finding the robot badly damaged and with a steel beam through its shoulder. As the young man approaches, Axel becomes even more stressed and his self-destruct protocol begins, but with less than a second left, Miles manages to reassure the android dog, which cancels the explosion. With the creature calmer, the young man pulls the object through his arm and is automatically put on Axel's list of trusted people, who send his software to the young man's cell phone. Looking at the application, Miles sees that the dog needs maintenance and takes it into the container, spending the whole night repairing it with a kit and some parts from his own motorcycle, as well as using the rest of the gasoline to refuel it. Able to walk again, Axel gets out of the container and starts sniffing Miles, who decides to take his muzzle off. Finally free, the dog asks to play and starts running around the abandoned buildings with the human, but while they're having fun, the crane drones manage to locate them and one of the engineers suggests deactivating the robot. Observing his creation's interaction with the human, Hendrik realizes how many things Axel has learned from the young man and decides to leave the two of them alone for a while longer, connecting the cameras in the dog's eyes for monitoring. At home, Sam is watching the video they made the day before when Sarah shows up asking for the exact location of where they left Miles, going to the abandoned building to look for him. As soon as he hears the girl's voice, Axel goes into defense mode and rushes towards the vehicle, jumping on the bed and breaking the truck while trying to hit Sarah. Desperate, Miles runs towards the two and manages to calm the dog down, making it see the girl as part of the team. After this, the trio are camping when Sarah says that Axel must have been created by the armed forces and tries to convince Miles that they should return it, but the young man argues that the robot is full of bullet holes in the bodywork and that they weren't taking good care of it, so he has no intention of giving it back. Back in Crane, the engineer begins to check the young men's data and discovers that they both have financial difficulties, suggesting that they will accept any amount they offer, but Hendrik insists that they should leave them with the robot, as it learns new things every second it spends with humans, greatly advancing the research work. The next morning, Axel unhooks Sarah's truck and the three of them set off for town, but as no one can know about the dog, Miles covers it with a tarpaulin and starts to fuel up the vehicle. While the young man scavenges coins from the glove compartment, Axel hacks into the pump system and releases the fuel, filling the tank without them having to spend a penny. To top it off, the robot hacks the ATM and makes it spit out all the bills inside, giving them more than $1,000 and forcing them to flee before they attract the attention of the police. At home, Sarah's mother asks Sam if he knows where her daughter is and the young man shows her location in real time, offering to go there himself to see if she's alright. Unaware that Sam is coming, the girl takes Miles and Axel to an abandoned building where she usually does graffiti and tells them that the robot can be hidden there. Impressed by the drawings, Miles asks Sarah to show him some more of her art and the girl decides to graffiti a feather, which ends up making Axel assimilate the figure with Crane's symbol and start projecting a sort of instruction manual on the wall. After the hologram ends, the robot ejects the admin control and Miles places his thumb on the fingerprint reader that pierces his finger, using the blood to pair him as the new admin and owner. Just then, Sam arrives at the place and Sarah asks the others to hide while she talks to him, but during the discussion, the spoiled teenager starts to get aggressive with the girl and Miles shows up to defend her. For no reason, Sam starts making fun and tries to punch him, but the young man manages to dodge and Axel jumps on the aggressor. With Sam immobilized, Miles asks the robot to take him to the truck and starts threatening him never to go near the girl again, leaving Sam terrified. After making him promise to leave everyone alone, Miles allows him to leave and thanks Axel for defending him, but Sarah is not at all happy with what has happened and starts saying that he has ruined her life. According to the girl, her mother works for Sam's family and they both live in his house, so now he can fire them and they'll have nowhere else to go. Understanding the complexity of the situation, Miles asks her to go after him and try to apologize, but Sarah rejects the idea and says it's better that they resolve the Axel situation first. She suggests they go home and tell Chuck what's going on, but for some reason Miles decides to leave the robot alone even though Sam knows its location. At home, the two explain to Chuck everything they've discovered about the dog, while Sam takes his friends to do a live show of the robot for everyone. With a gallon of fuel, the young man starts whistling and manages to get the robot's attention, but as Miles has asked him not to hurt Sam, Axel doesn't take any aggressive action. Apprehensive, Sam asks his friend to record, while he makes a trail of gasoline in front of the dog. Wondering where this is going, Hendrik sends two teams of agents to rescue Axel, but they are still a long way off and will take more than 2 hours to arrive. Back in the abandoned building, Sam throws a ball in the dog's direction to get him to come closer and picks up the blowtorch to burn the gasoline. Analyzing the object, Axel manages to identify that it is a weapon, but still does nothing to defend himself, standing still while the two approach. At home, Miles asks his father what they should do and he suggests that they return the creature, but while they are arguing, Sarah sees Sam's live and interrupts them saying that they should go back as soon as possible, making the young man leave and leave the admin key behind. With no one to stop him, Sam turns on the blowtorch and sets fire to the gasoline, which explodes right under the robot, damaging the system and putting it into safety mode.
With what little energy he has left, Axel communicates with the two via cell phone and gives them the location of a workshop where they can start cleaning and repairing. After working all night, the couple manages to reset the robot circuits, which programs a system reboot for 2.5 hours from now, leaving them with nothing to do. While the two wait, Chuck is visited by one of Crane's agents who threatens him to enter the house and search it. After confirming that Miles is no longer there, the man asks if Chuck has seen the admin key and he replies that his son's things are in the garage, leaving the agent to search, while he takes the device from the table and hides it in a safe place. With that done, Chuck takes his bow and manages to overpower the employee, disarming him and handcuffing him to a chair. From headquarters, Hendrik sees that his agent has been captured and goes into a state of denial, but the engineer is tired of being ignored and takes advantage of the moment of distraction to send an email to Alicia telling her everything that has happened. Unaware that he has been betrayed, Hendrik manages to track down Axel and sends his remaining units to capture the three, but while they are searching for the humans, the reboot is completed and the robot begins to attack them. To defend themselves, the agents fire high-voltage weapons that try to overload the dog, forcing Miles to jump on top of the soldier and allowing Sarah to surrender all of them. With the battle over, Axel begins to remember the latest events and goes into hunting mode, abandoning his administrators to go after Sam. Unaware of the danger he's in, Sam stops at the gas station with his friends and is soon overtaken by the dog who is watching everything from the roof, but soon realizes that something is wrong and manages to leave the place before being attacked. So the young man goes straight to a party and starts broadcasting everything live when the cameraman sees Axel on top of the trailer. Panicked, everyone runs for their lives, while Sam decides to hide under a vehicle, but ends up being spotted and does his best not to be crushed by the robot's footsteps. While he's trying to dodge, Miles and Sarah arrive on the scene and distract Axel, allowing Sam to run up to the flamethrower and use it to defend himself. However, the torch runs out of fuel after a few seconds and the robot can attack again, forcing Miles to jump in front of it to save the bully. Hearing his admin's voice, Axel finally manages to calm down and comes out of hunting mode, but before they can leave, they are met by drones that stick to the robot's body, electrocuting its bodywork and leaving it incapacitated. As Sam flees, Crane's agents appear and handcuff both Axel and the humans, knocking them out and taking them to their laboratory, without access to the prototype because programmed to attack without mercy. Desperate, the girl runs out of the box and manages to grab a flashlight without getting bitten, using the light to draw a feather like the one she made on the wall. Even reprogrammed, Sarah's movements make the robot remember them again and break free of its restraints, allowing the humans to flee while it confronts Hendrik. Despite being its creator, the man no longer has any control and runs outside where he is surrendered by the armed forces. Thinking they've come to help, Hendrik says they're on the same side and warns them that Axel is still inside, but the men don't listen and handcuff the chief designer, making him realize he's been betrayed. Inside, Miles manages to reach his motorcycle and says goodbye to Sarah, who decides to give herself up, staying behind to distract the enemies. Sacrificing herself for the man she loves, the girl surrenders and is captured for interrogation, but while the soldiers put the handcuffs on, Miles takes advantage of their distraction and jumps out of the building, fleeing in a northerly direction while the army uses helicopters and other resources to catch up with them. While fleeing through the mountains, Axel begins to scan the terrain and discovers that they are heading straight for a cliff and that if they don't stop in time, they will fall more than 180 meters. Even so, the two friends don't give up and accelerate as fast as they can, suffering a nasty fall into the abyss. When he gets up, Axel realizes that Miles' arm is broken and decides to sacrifice himself to save the administrator, saving all the data in the cloud and activating the self-destruct, while running towards the helicopter. At this point, the drones reach the robot and begin to electrocute it, but Axel doesn't give up and continues to lure the aircraft away from Miles. When he gets to a safe distance from the young man, the dog starts the countdown and stares at the admin for a few seconds, then turns towards the helicopter and detonates it. After the explosion, the soldiers surrender Miles and decide that they need compensation for all the risk they have suffered, paying for a scholarship for the two of them at robotics college. Living together, the two adopt a husky puppy and go for a weekend at the beach, but during their break, Miles receives an envelope from his father containing the administrator key and decides to touch the fingerprint reader, causing the application to be installed on both their cell phones and activating the assembly module. What did you think of this movie?
Did they finally kill Superman? Stay tuned to find out. Welcome back to our channel, guys. Today we will be recapping the movie, Death of Superman. Spoiler alert, watch out and take care. The film begins in the Metropolis City Hall where the cops are trying to stop a notorious group called the Inter Gang from kidnapping the mayor. The gang disposes of the cops with their advanced weapons, but just as they are about to start celebrating, our favorite Red Cape hero shows up just in time. Superman flies in and single-handedly stops them in their tracks. He defeats the gang and their leader Mannheim and heroically states that no one tears his city apart and gets away with it. Later Cyborg discovers that the gang's armor was designed by Apocalypse Technology, so he offers to take it to his father who knows this stuff, for further information. During an interview with the Daily Planet's reporter Lois Lane, Superman presents the rocket that brought him to Earth from Krypton, and in it they find a Kryptonian crystal with information. Superman activates the crystal and a man appears in a hologram claiming he is a Kryptonian AI designed to assist Kal-El and also keeping the history of all Kryptonian bloodlines. Later Superman flies Lois Lane back to the Daily Planet and then flies off. Then she enters the building. Inside the office Lois Lane bumps into fellow news reporter Clark Kent, who she apparently is in a relationship with. Lane asks to meet Clark's parents and Clark reluctantly agrees, leaving Lane wondering if there really is something else she could find out about him. Later at Star Labs, Cyborg, Dr. Stone, and Dr. Irons are investigating the Intergang's piece of armor. Dr. Irons discovers the armor has traces from both Apocalypse and Earth, making it stronger. This type could only be made by Star Labs, Wayne Technologies, or even worse, Lex Luthor. Following this, Superman confronts Luthor, who is confined to house arrest, but he denies any involvement. Meanwhile, a Superman's fan, Captain Hank Henshaw, leads a team of astronauts aboard the space shuttle Excalibur when a boom tube sends a meteorite heading towards the shuttle. Elsewhere, Lex Luthor arrives at his Lex Towers in a bearded disguise where a doctor takes off his house arrest tag, which he mysteriously mounted with pieces of kryptonite in his lab. Luthor has gathered a team of the best scientists of this generation. From there he watches as the team in space is preparing for the incoming asteroid, which seems to have something inside of it. As Henshaw waits for Superman's rescue, the shuttle is destroyed as the other scientists are scattered out into space while Henshaw's body remains unaccounted for. The meteorite crashes into the Atlantic Ocean. As it is monitored by Luthor's underground research facility, Luthor sends a deep-sea exploration team to trace the crashed object and they encounter Atlanteans. However, both groups are destroyed by a strange creature that emerges from the wreckage. Luthor is fascinated by the creature which survived the catastrophic entry into Earth, and he wonders if he could finally be competition for the Red Cape hero. Later Cyborg reports to the Justice League about the Excalibur incident with only 3 bodies recovered, and Aquaman says his guards are investigating the impacted area. Superman also learns that Flash told his girlfriend about his real-life name and plans to marry her, but Superman is worried about the dangers involved if he tells Lois Lane his secrets. Later that night Clark takes Lois Lane to have dinner with his parents. Clark is afraid his dad is sharing too much information with Lane, while his mom starts to share about the girls who have broken Clark's heart before. Later as she leaves, Lane is afraid Clark is holding too much from him, but Clark assures her all is well. The following day at work, as Clark is planning for lunch with Lane, he receives a report from Wonder Woman about an attack in a town by a strange creature. However, Clark declines since he has a date, but asks Diana to call him in case the League needs him. The alien wrecks the town, killing the cops, but the Justice League arrives tardily to help. In fact, the heroes soon discover the alien is not their normal villain since he easily defeats them, forcing Batman to ask for backup. Elsewhere, Lex Luthor is creating an army using alien DNA, and he plans to use the new alien monster in town as a specimen. Meanwhile, Clark and Lois are on a date where he reveals there really is something he is hiding from her. He reveals he is Superman, but Lois bursts out in laughter. However, she soon finds the reality in it since Clark is always on time. He writes captivating stories about Superman, and he also never sweats. Lois Lane soon turns to receive a call from Renew News team informing her about the ongoing monster situation in Metropolis, which has already taken down half the Justice League. When she turns back to notify Clark, he is long gone, leaving behind a note outlining his last secret, which is he loves her. Superman arrives on the battlefield to find his team all busted up. All the citizens watch the news to see if he meets the challenge. As the fight rages through Metropolis, Luthor notes the creature, now termed Doomsday by Lois Lane, is a killing machine programmed to wipe out entire civilizations. The monster defeats Superman, and Lex Luthor arrives wearing a battlesuit to join the fight. He asks Lois Lane to keep the camera rolling, aiming to become Metropolis' true protector, but he is defeated and Superman saves him. The monster is about to kill Superman, but his girlfriend Lois Lane appears and confronts the monster, which now turns towards her. The monster heads to kill her, but Superman summons his remaining strength and charges at him. He breaks its neck with his punch, killing it, but unfortunately, the monster had in turn sunk its alien claw in Superman, fatally wounding him. Lois runs to Superman and notifies him he just killed the monster and saved everyone. In her arms, Superman reveals he was truly lucky to have met her before he closes his eyes, leaving Lois teary-eyed and the Justice League members in grief. The news reports the incidents of Superman's death and watch in disbelief. Later, in a state funeral, the Metropolis City Mayor honors Superman as a hero and a friend to Metropolis while everyone mourns for him. The mayor also honors the Justice League members alongside Lex Luthor, who also gives a speech about how he misses Superman and his late-night visits at his balcony. Later, Superman's parents welcomed Lois into their family. Superman's top fan Bobby also mourns Superman and wonders why they had to take a hero like Superman and leave him around. At Star Labs, Luthor is cleared and tries to gain custody of Doomsday's body for a Project Cadmus, but he is denied. Suddenly, Superman's rocket starts itself up and flies off. Later, news reporter Jimmy takes Lois Lane to Superman's mausoleum, where they find his coffin open. They see a dark figure resembling Superman fly away, and the movie ends. In the post-credits scene, Dr. Irons appears forging Superman's logo onto metal armor. Elsewhere in the North Pole, Superman's ship lands and a Superman figure appears amidst a forming ice crystal structure, and finally a robot resembling Superman flies high above the Earth, bringing the movie to a somber end. Thank you for watching, guys. Please remember to subscribe to this channel for more animated recaps. Superman is possessed by a demon who helps him and the Justice League to defeat Darkseid. Welcome back to today's recap. Spoiler alert, watch out and take care. In the beginning of the film, John Constantine is lying in bed with his girlfriend Z, the couple of new members of the Justice League, and now they are at the headquarters. The girl is very concerned about her new profession. She wanted to go to bed, but Batman announced over the loudspeakers that all the heroes should come to the hangar. There, Superman explains to the new arrivals what is happening at the moment. He even shows the Team Apocalypse, Darkseid's home planet. He tells them about Darkseid's first invasion of Earth and claims that it was because of the first attack that the Justice League was formed. The second attack involved Cyborg, Superman, and his cyber forces. However, Raven, one of the heroines, gets sick during the superhero story, but she doesn't tell anyone about it. Diana reports that Apocalypse has infiltrated their dimensions and released drones, after which he retreated again. Superman claims that soon Darkseid will try to take over the Earth. Flash is interested in Darkseid's intentions, and he asks what assumption Superman has, whether the villain will capture the Earth right now or it will happen in the distant future. Superman, in response to his question, shows pictures taken from the worlds captured by Darkseid. Justice League intelligence reports that the villain is sending his elite guards as an occupying force. Superman outlines that the team is faced with a real and very dangerous problem that they have to solve. Many team members offered to make a deal with Darkseid, but Superman was categorically against it. He states that the villain created a monster that once almost killed him, therefore the only way to win is to destroy Darkseid. Flash and Constantine argue that the villain does not deserve to die and war should be avoided, because otherwise a lot of people will die. Superman still stands by his opinion. Next, Diana tells the team their plan, but there is a traitor in the midst. Through Cyborg's eye, Darkseid saw and heard what the Justice League was going to do in order to destroy him. The Justice League is off on their mission to save the world. Through the portal, they move to the Apocalypse. Almost immediately, ships began to attack. The scene changes to 2 years later. Planet Earth is enveloped in darkness. There are a lot of destroyed buildings and cities, and people do not go outside. Darkseid guards are patrolling through the streets. Constantine is in a bar drinking whiskey with his friend Edrigan. Clark Kent and Raven come for him. Superman reminds an old friend of himself, after which Darkseid monsters break into the bar and attack them. They defeat the monsters and a dialogue ensues between them. Superman looked different, his eyes were green and there was a green Superman logo tattoo on the skin of his chest. Superman claimed that it was because of liquid kryptonite so that he would not become a threat to Darkseid. This means the hero was deprived of his superpowers as a result. Raven feels terrible and hears a voice in her head. She soon gets better. They both came to the bar to take Constantine with them, but the man refused their request. Raven tried to manipulate Constantine, saying that his dead girlfriend would like to see her man as a hero. However, Constantine is not moved by these words. Constantine brought his old friends to his office. They both retells what had happened in that battle. Darkseid knew all their actions and was able to stay one step ahead of the heroes. Because of this, many members of the Justice League died at the very beginning of the battle. The villain did not kill everyone as he had plans for some of the heroes. A few days after the battle, Darkseid sent his subordinates to Earth, so the heroes had no chance of winning. Constantine remembered how his beloved died, and he ran away at that moment. Now he doesn't understand why he did it. They both came for Constantine because they needed to search magic. John agreed to help, but before that he had one thing to do. He left and asked his old friends to wait for him in the office. Darkseid continues to destroy the Earth. He plans to gain power over the space sector. He even made Batman become his servant. Batman followed all his given instructions and reported all the work done to his master. Superman learns that new destructive equipment has appeared in China. Constantine returns to the heroes. Superman asks him to find Damian Wayne. The heroes are transferred through the portal to the location on the map. However, Batman contacted Luthor and told him the plan of action, which is to extend Darkseid's power to the entire universe. When the heroes got to the location, they were attacked by Damian's guards. They managed to fight back and found Damian, who was not happy to see Superman. Raven hears the voice in her head again and falls into a trance in which her father contacts her. It is his voice that torments the girl. He insults and humiliates her in every way and swears to take revenge for everything. Damian calls Raven and Clark to follow him. The young man claims that many of his comrades died because of that battle. Superman says they need to get to Batman and Damian can hack into Darkseid's program. After all, he is the son of Batman, so he agrees to help save him. The team is transferred to Stryker's Island, but Raven is getting worse. Meanwhile, on the island, Clark's girlfriend Lois fights Harley Quinn in the arena. A lot of people were watching them. Although Clark thought that the girl would negotiate, Lois defeats Harley and becomes the champion. Harley snatches the microphone from the host and tells the Suicide Squad that they will go to Lex Luthor and take back the planet tomorrow. Harley and Lois go to her office. Lois wants to show her something. Cheetah took Damian and Raven to a separate room so that the girl could rest. The young man asks how she contacted Clark. She said that she wanted to end her life by suicide and Superman saw it and saved her. Damian confesses his feelings to the girl. He wanted to find the League of Assassins and invited the girl along with him, but at that moment she refused. Raven told the young man that she didn't want to reject him. The fact was that her father wanted to kill Damian and the girl could not take the risk. Lois shows the new allies and heroes the Darkseid machines that have appeared in China, the Congo, and on the shores of England. These equipment move the Earth's magma to Darkseid's base. The heroes need to blow up the apocalypse, but for this they need to lure out the Paradums, which consist of improved Batman's DNA. Lois suggests they do this by stealing 2 trucks, thus the Paradums will go from the apocalypse to Earth. Next, the team will capture Luthor's tower and teleport to the apocalypse and destroy it. The team will wait until Darkseid goes to away, then when they get to the apocalypse they will close the portal so that Darkseid does not get back. Without the apocalypse, the villain will not be able to destroy the Earth. Lois learns about all this information from the sleeper who was with Darkseid. He had been giving her information about the villain for months. The team needs to act as quickly as possible as the molten core of the planet will be depleted in a week. This plan is very risky, but the team has no other choice. Harley and Captain Shark found the truck and made their way to the Luthor Tower. Darkseid goes to away and orders Batman not to bother him. The team is already inside the tower. The sleeper informs Lois that Darkseid has gone to away. The first team and the second team went to damage the equipment. Batman teleports his Paradums to Earth. Lois is concerned that the sleeper has not yet reported that the Paradums have left the apocalypse. The girl begins to blame herself that she did not assemble a third team. Constantine, thanks to his abilities, went to the third machine. He summoned his old friend. John Constantine set up the monster to ruin the equipment, then he returned to his team. Lois said that Constantine's plan worked, but they were just acts without any plan. The superheroes went to battle with the army of Darkseid. Luthor on CCTV cameras saw the heroes heading to the top of the tower. Lois informs the team that the gate is on the floor above and the team is in a hurry to get there. Suddenly Luthor appears in an exosuit and prevents the heroes from passing on. Lex starts attacking the team, but Raven deftly handles him. Superman stops the action of the team and says that they need Luthor, however Damian does not agree with him. Luther tries to justify himself and says that at the end of that battle he was surrounded, and since then he has been forced to work for Darkseid. However, Lex was exactly the same sleeper who helped the team and transmitted all possible information so that the heroes could move forward. Luther was really useful to the team as he knew all of Darkseid's plans, therefore the heroes took him with them. The teams that caused damage to More Machine and fought with the villain's drones, many of them were already dead. Superman puts on an exosuit that Luther gave him. The exosuit and all the weapons that Luther gave to the team consisted of kryptonite. Meanwhile, Lois decided to stay on Earth and make sure that the portal remained closed. The heroes teleported to the Apocalypse where they were attacked by their old friends. Their minds were controlled by Darkseid. In this battle their team lost Edrigen. Constantine managed to free Diana's mind from Darkseid's control and she joined their team. Wonder Woman pointed the heroes to the tunnel that leads to the power generator and she decided to deal with the attacking opponents herself. Some heroes stayed in the tower with Lex and Lois. They decided to stop the monsters that have arrived on Earth since if they return to the Apocalypse the plan will not work. Meanwhile the team reached the power generator, there they saw the Flash. With the help of his speed, the power generator was operational. Flash was forced to run to maintain its functioning constantly. Superman destroyed the generator and saved the Flash. The superhero said that after that battle Darkseid reactor was damaged and the villain made Flash his replacement. The Flash was off the energy generator but the heroes could not blow it up. However, the team had gone too far, they needed to revisit the plans. Meanwhile, the team of heroes who stayed on Earth began to fight monsters. Their weapons were running out of ammo and they had to close the portal to teleport to other dimensions. Heroes on the Apocalypse faced a laser attack indoors. Raven created a protective dome but she couldn't hold it for long. The girl could not restrain herself and her strength burst out. However, she repelled the attack of lasers and fell to the floor from exhaustion. As it turned out, it was her father who wanted to get out. Suddenly the team notices the cyborg's body. It was taken apart and mounted to the wall. Their former colleague is now a servant of Darkseid as a source fence. Darkseid ordered him to capture the heroes alive to watch their punishment. Constantine uses magic to free the cyborg and all the other heroes from Darkseid's control. Superman tries to pull their friend out of the wall but Cyborg hurried to stop him. As there is little left of the superhero's body. He wanted to warn them about something but Batman appeared and Darkseid came with him. Superman rushed to attack but Darkseid destroyed his exosuit and threw the superhero aside. Darkseid through Batman's mind presses on the sore topics of Constantine and Damian. The young man hears his own father calling him a burden and pulls out his kryptonite sword. He tells Batman to kill him if he really thinks he is a burden. Darkseid orders Batman to destroy Damian and the superhero gets off his chair and activates attack mode on him. After that the chair starts shooting laser at the superheroes. Batman himself began to fight with his son. He is much stronger and smarter than the young man but when it was necessary to strike the last blow Batman remembered how as a child a loaded pistol was held in front of his face. Suddenly the hero took control of his consciousness and struck Darkseid. The villain got angry and decided to strike back but Damian stood in front of Batman and took the hit. The young man was down but saved his father's life. Raven sees this and can't control herself. Because of this, her father is closer to getting out. Constantine offered the demon his body to kill Darkseid, but the demon preferred Clark's body and possessed him. After that he killed Constantine and began to fight with Darkseid. Damian was still alive, he apologized to his father and asked to save the heroes, after which he died. Lois tries to contact Clark, but Batman answers her. The hero takes her to the big screens and Clark sees her. Lois says that she loves him very much, after which a powerful explosion occurs and Lois, along with the entire team on the ground, dies. Superman expels the demon from his body and regains his abilities. Darkseid captures the demon and starts fighting Superman. Constantine meets with his dead girlfriend and realizes that he also died. Z outlines that she needed to apologize to him. On the day of their first attack when the girl was dying, she used a compulsion spill to make Constantine escape and survive. After this conversation, the girl claims that their friends need Constantine and he needs to go back. Raven cries over Damian's corpse and confesses her feelings, but as soon as her tears get on his skin he comes to life. Z kisses Constantine and he comes to life on Earth. The heroes devised a new plan in which Cyborg offers to send the heroes to the platform and bring the Paradums back, then throw the Apocalypse into nowhere and Darkseid will be forever locked up with his monsters. Constantine and Raven release Raven's father to freedom so that he distracts Darkseid and the heroes can return to the platform together. The demon does not attack Superman and tells him to leave as soon as possible. Cyborg opens the portal and the heroes leave. Then the Apocalypse was teleported to an unknown dimension and the Earth was saved. The heroes mourned the dead loved ones. Batman outlined the bad news, stating that the inhabitants lost not a small part of the Earth's core and the rotation of the planet was disrupted. Batman estimates that about 1 billion more people will die before superheroes can take control of everything, but Superman is not going to give up. He is ready to fight for the Earth. Thank you for watching, guys. Please remember to subscribe to this channel for more animated recaps.
Mirror Master stole Batman's plans and used them to disable the Justice League members. Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. Today we will be recapping the movie, Justice League Doom. Spoiler alert, watch out and take care. The story begins with the Justice League investigating the activities of the elusive Royal Flush Gang. It's been reported that they have mysteriously broken into highly secured places without tripping any alarms or alerting the authorities. Batman tracks them down and walks in on a robbery in progress, so he immediately calls in reinforcements from the Justice League. Jack of the Royal Flush Gang keeps watch as the others haul in a big score. Suddenly he notices Batman sneaking and he buys enough time for the rest of the heroes to arrive on the scene. Ace was about to drop the vault door on him when Green Lantern arrives and throws him against the wall. He then pursues 10 trying to escape on a floating card, while Superman handles Ace himself. Wonder Woman chases after Queen while Martian Manhunter goes after King. Flash and Batman work together to handle Jack, who cornered himself into the vault room. While Batman keeps Jack preoccupied, Flash phases through the wall and knocks him out. Green Lantern uses his powers to knock out 10, while Superman uses his overwhelming strength to rip Ace's humanoid body apart, and Wonder Woman uses her lasso to restrain the Queen. King manages to break free from Martian Manhunter using a plasma generator to electrocute him, but he immediately gets knocked out by Cyborg, who was waiting outside. It turns out that Batman called in Cyborg to help with the case, given that the villains were using extra-dimensional tech and Cyborg is the only specialist in that field. Cyborg explains that the device allows its user to pass through solid objects and explains that somebody gave it to them, given that the Royal Flush Gang is not highly skilled enough. They tried to interrogate them but came up empty. Cyborg explains that he needs time to sort the data on the hard drive from the device to determine who made them. Unsatisfied with how things turned out, Batman returns to the Batcave and continues working, but his butler Alfred Pennyworth insists he gets medical attention first. While Batman and Alfred return to the manor, Mirror Master breaks in through the Batmobile's rearview mirror. He then uses a mysterious device to steal all encrypted data on Batman's computer. Meanwhile, Bane follows a track sent to him by a mysterious person somewhere in the Louisiana swamp. Out of nowhere, a crocodile pounces at him and drags him under. Bane uses his powers to break free and easily snaps the reptile's neck. He is later greeted by fellow villains, Star Sapphire, Metallo, Ma, Alepha, Ak and Cheetah. While getting acquainted, a building surfaces from under the swamp. The host welcomes them to the Hall of Doom and introduces himself as Vandal Savage. It turns out that they were all invited and lured in with promises of a payday. Vandal explains that they were specially handpicked after having a personal vendetta against a member of the Justice League. He claims he has a vision for a new world and wishes to take out the Justice League, which stands in his way. Though reluctant at first, Vandal convinces them to join his cause after their long history of failing to kill members of the League on multiple attempts. Mirror Master vouches for Vandal, offering them a foolproof plan of winning against their nemesis. To sweeten the deal, he even offers them an additional $100 million for each Justice League member they manage to take out. Star Sapphire grows suspicious at how Vandal flaunts that much money. Vandal explains that he's pretty old and he has spent 50,000 years amassing a vast fortune. He later hints at an ulterior agenda aside from taking out the Justice League, which could be monumentally beneficial for them if they continue working with him. After agreeing to his plans, they are officially welcomed as members of the Legion of Doom, dedicated to defeating the Justice League. At the Batcave, Alfred alerts Bruce Wayne of the desecrated graves of his parents. When he sees it, he's overtaken by rage and Bane suddenly sucker punches him. When he catches him off guard, he then beats him to near death before burying Bruce alive in his parents' coffin. Meanwhile, John Jones the Martian Manhunter meets a friend who surprises him on his birthday. Everyone's friendly to him at the bar when a mysterious woman buys him a drink out of nowhere. He approaches the woman and thanks her for the warm gesture, when he realizes that it is Ma Alepha Ak in disguise. He admits that the drink is laced with magnesium, a chemical that has an odd effect on Martian biology and is considered poison to their kind. Although the magnesium won't kill him, his body will continue to sweat it out of his pores, which when ignited will continually fuel the flames. John is unable to retain his disguise and reverts to his original form. When Malefic sets him on fire and he constantly blasts, never extinguishing even with water. In Central City, Barry Allen, the Flash, receives word that the Mirror Master is robbing the new magnet train from Keystone City. Flash quickly heads to the train and frees the guards who are tied up. They explain that the Mirror Master plans on stealing old cash they were transporting to the Federal Reserve to be taken out of circulation and changed for new bills. Mirror Master used holograms to taunt Flash. When he finally reaches the last carriage, he finds Mirror Master taking an elderly woman hostage inside of a glass cage. He explains that Flash needs to use his powers to save her, but when he attempts to phase through it, he gets strapped with a bomb bolted to his wrist. Mirror Master explains that the bomb will explode if he tries to remove it, remains still for 60 seconds or slows down after running. Meanwhile, Green Lantern responds to a call where an unknown number of heavily armed militiamen have taken over an assault mine. They call themselves the Identity Brotherhood and have taken several workers hostage. As he ventured deeper into the mine, he saved the workers but claimed that one of the company's bookkeepers was also taken captive. He managed to corner one of the armed men taking a woman hostage and tried to reason with him. Instead of surrendering, he blew himself up along with the hostage. It was later revealed that the explosion released Scarecrow's fear gas, which haunts Green Lantern with guilt over failing to save the hostage despite the power he wields. He later renounces his ring and reverts to a regular human, leaving himself to his fate in a collapsing mine. At a harbor, Wonder Woman is lured by Cheetah, who challenges her to a one-on-one. Although Wonder Woman fended off most of her attacks, Cheetah manages to graze her. It turns out that her claws were laced with nanites to attack Wonder Woman's visual and auditory centers, causing hallucinations, causing her to see everyone look like Cheetah. She then starts attacking random civilians and even police officers who are trying to calm her down. Knowing Wonder Woman will never quit a fight, she will continue fighting until she dies from a stress-induced heart attack or a brain aneurysm. In Metropolis, Clark Kent, the Superman, receives word from Daily Planet reporter Lois Lane that Henry Eckertson, a disallowed White House reporter, is about to jump off the top of a building. Superman immediately flew over to reason with him. After telling a sob story of how life has been unfair and cruel to him, he suddenly shoots Superman with a kryptonite bullet. When that wasn't enough, Henry's revealed to be Metallo in disguise, who opens up his kryptonite heart, which weakens Superman as he falls off the building. With the Justice League members on the verge of death or incapacitated, the League of Doom celebrates their victory. Later, Vandal reveals a larger scheme he had planned, which he callously describes as genocidal, as he plans on killing half the world's population. He told them he was born 80,000 years ago and lived on an island now known as Sumatra. One night they witnessed a meteor shower, but with their primitive minds back then, they only knew of it as stars falling from the sky. One of those meteors fell to Earth near a valley where he lived. He quickly sought it out as he was drawn to it and even slept beside it, feeling its warmth. When he woke up the next day, he was forever changed. The radiation from the meteor evolved him into a super-intellectual creature, and he later discovered his immortality, even daring the Cheetah to test his claims of immortality. When she slipped his throat, Vandal got back up and his wounds immediately recovered. Returning to his plans, he claims the surviving population will look up to a leader who offers them food, comfort and order. Vandal offers them a chance of becoming warlords in this new world and dominion over as much of what remains of the planet. When asked how he plans on ridding half of the world's population, he shows them a specifically crafted nuclear missile that causes a solar flare directed at Earth. Cyborg later arrives at the park after hearing a report of police officers attacking Wonder Woman. The officer in charge explains that she was first seen fighting Cheetah when she suddenly went berserk and started attacking everyone else. They managed to get the civilians out and seal off the park, but they struggled to restrain Wonder Woman. Cyborg later realizes that she has nano-machines on her brainstem, making her hallucinate and see everyone as Cheetah. He manages to free her from the hallucination with a sonic attack using a frequency that neutralizes the nanites. Meanwhile, Bruce, trapped in a coffin with his parents, made him more determined to break free. While trying to figure out how Bane got the upper hand on him, Alfred informs him of the grave news of Superman being shot. He later realizes that the Justice League is under attack using contingency plans he had stored on his computer. He instructs Flash to phase through an iceberg to break free from the bomb bolted to his wrist. Meanwhile, Wonder Woman dives into the water to inject Martian Manhunter with aluminum oxide to counteract the magnesium he is overly secreting. Batman then finds Green Lantern and explains that what happened was not his fault and that the so-called corpses were just android bodies to make him feel guilty over their deaths. To save Superman, Batman then gives Cyborg a piece of kryptonite to break through his flesh, while Martian Manhunter digs out the kryptonite bullet in Superman's body. The Justice League later returned to the Watchtower to discuss what happened. Batman admits that the plan used to take them out was his contingency plan considering each of their weaknesses. He claims he had created those plans to neutralize the Justice League should the need arise. He explains that members of the League are too powerful even on their own and in retrospect could also be the most dangerous on the planet. He explains that he has also had a contingency plan for when his security gets breached, it would automatically call back home so he could trace the location of whoever broke into his computer. At the Hall of Doom, Vandal reveals how the nuclear missile would kill half of the world's population. He explains that the missile will trigger a solar flare that will grow at light speed along the magnetic trail left by the missile to destroy Earth and everything on it. A strong electromagnetic pulse will take out all technology and devices leading to a dark age. Out of nowhere, Martian Manhunter appears before them and summons the rest of the Justice League. The League faces their own rivals. Superman tore Mentello apart. Wonder Woman knocked out Cheetah. Green Lantern overpowered Star Sapphire. Flash overwhelmed Mirror Master. Martian Manhunter outsmarted Alepha. And Batman defeats Bane. Cyborg manages to stop the missile auto-launching sequence, but Vandal sneaks up on him and launches it manually. Wonder Woman arrives and restrains him, to which Cyborg knocks him out with a punch. Although they defeated the League of Doom, they failed to prevent the rocket from launching. Superman quickly flew to stop the missile en route, but one of the warheads reached the sun and triggered a solar flare. Green Lantern tries to buy them some time by creating a massive shield to slow the solar flare. Cyborg suggests they use the intangibility tech that the Royal Flush Gang used to let the flare pass through Earth. He reveals that the Hall of Doom was built as a giant intangibility device to provide it with enough energy to generate a force field letting the solar flare harmlessly pass through, saving Earth and everyone in it. With the crisis averted, they later return to the Watchtower, where Superman informs them that Vandal Savage has been tried in World Court. He's been found guilty of crimes against humanity and sentenced to life in prison. They also welcome Cyborg as the newest member of the Justice League, given his assistance in the recent incident. They later decide whether Batman should stay with the League given that his plans were used against the League members. Batman claims he would do it again if given the chance. He firmly believes that the Justice League is far too powerful of a group not to have fail-safe against any possible misuse of its powers. Despite good intentions, Batman fears their powers could easily be used for ulterior motives. He then walks away, but not before criticizing them for not seeing the potential danger of an out-of-control League member. Superman later talks to Batman before he leaves. He wondered what his plans were should he go astray, to which he responds that the Justice League was his contingency plan with his trust assured. Superman hands Batman the kryptonite bullet, entrusting him to stop him and keep the planet safe if he goes over to the other side. After which the awesome film came to an end. Thank you for watching, guys. Please remember to subscribe to this channel for more animated recaps.
Welcome back to the channel, guys. In today's recap we will be recapping the Space Jam. The movie begins on a teeny-weeny planet called Moron Mountain. The owners of the unpleasant amusement park on that planet realized that his rides weren't as amusing to the customers anymore. So he devised a sinister plan. He ordered his goons to go down to Earth and kidnap the Looney Tunes characters and bring him back, and so they could be used for attracting all the kids. The alien goons made their grand entrance on our big blue planet Earth and started their exploration. On the hunt for those famous cartoon characters, they searched high and low, left and right, but couldn't find a single one of them. Frustrated, they dive underground in their spaceship and started looking around. They eventually stumbled upon the secret entrance to the Warner Brother cartoon world. As soon as they set foot in the looniest land of all, these aliens needed to find someone ASAP, so they landed their ship, squashing poor Elmer Fudd in the process. Once they got out, this little green dude started asking Bugs if he knew where Bugs Bunny was. We all know how shifty Bugs is. He pretended he had no clue. But these aliens were not dummies. They quickly figured out that their target was right in front of him and zapped Bugs Bunny with their laser guns. This forced him to round up all the Looney Tunes characters. Meanwhile, back at Michael Jordan's crib, he was just chilling with his kids watching some Roadrunner cartoon, but this episode was interrupted by Porky Pig calling for an emergency meeting. So in this Toon world, Bugs Bunny was all tied up informing the others about the aliens who once top enslaved them all. But given Bug Bunny's history, the other characters thought it was some kind of prank and didn't take it seriously. Well, that is until Yosemite Sam tried to be a hero and got zapped into smithereens by the aliens' weapons. That's when they all surrendered, but typical Bugs Bunny always got a trick up his furry sleeve. He told those aliens they could not just snatch the Looney Tunes without a fair challenge for their freedom, and he proposed a challenge in the form of a basketball game. These aliens had no clue how the game works, so they started crashing real basketball games and took over the players' bodies, stealing their skills and stuffing them into this weird alien ball. They left the poor athletes completely useless on the court. These aliens, with their sneaky tactics, managed to snatch the skills of not one, but 5 professional players. They touched the basketball and bam, each alien absorbed a professional player's talent and transformed into giant aliens with the bodies of real superstar athletes. They were so strong that just throwing a ball on the ground made the earth crack. Now when the Looney Tunes saw the crazy level of skills these invaders had, they knew they needed backup. So they devised a plan and headed to the golf course where Michael Jordan was playing with his buddies that day. He reached for a ball in the hole and they pulled in right through a hole in the course. Back in the Looney world, Bugs Bunny informed Michael of their situation and what those aliens have done. He begs Michael to help him out in the big match so they can stay free and not become alien slaves. To convince Michael, the Looney Tunes take him to the court, which has fallen apart. It was quickly renovated in a jiffy with a little help from Taz himself. Just as they finished, guess who shows up? If you guess alien team, you guessed right. They challenged Michael to prove his skills, but when he says no, they turn him into a ball and start bouncing him around like crazy. An insulted Michael realizes he can't back down as the problem is literally out of this world. So he agrees to help and starts training the Looney Tunes, especially Lola, who's already pretty good at basketball. Michael knows he's got a tough battle ahead, so he asks Daffy and Bugs to swing by his place and grab his fancy basketball gears. They almost became chew toy for Michael's dog. Eventually they sneak into the house with Bugs leading the way and they head straight for the trophy room. But guess who they bump into again? That gigantic doggy who was locked on Daffy. But luckily Michael's kids saved the day just in the nick of time. After grabbing the gear, Bugs and Daffy start making their way back home. But unfortunately, they were spotted by Stan, Michael's trusty assistant. It turns out after Michael went missing that day, Stan started digging like crazy to find his friend, but had no luck until now. Just as he was about to give up, he catches sight of Bugs and Daffy heading into the hole, so he decides to follow and see if he can find Michael too. After a whole lot of training, the big day has finally arrived. The day of the epic basketball game. Warner characters from all over have gathered to witness this legendary match. The excitement is through the roof. As the game kicks off, Michael gets the jump ball advantage and passes the ball to Bugs Bunny. But Bugs is hit and one of those crooked invaders snatches the ball away from him and pulls off an amazing tomahawk dunk. In the next play, Michael is being swarmed by the enemy team, so he passes the ball to Daffy Duck, but poor Daffy realizes the entire enemy squad is after him, so he quickly tosses the ball to Granny, who's just chilling on the bench. She still gets squished by the enemy squad. As the game goes on, those aliens start playing dirtier than ever. They turn Foghorn Leghorn into a roasted chicken. But the Toon Squad manages to score a few points thanks to Lola and Michael. However, at the end of the first half, they were behind on the scoreboard. If you are enjoying this recap, remember to subscribe to get notified whenever there is a new upload. In the visitors' locker room, Stan, Michael's friend, hides in the closet to eavesdrop on the aliens' conversation. He finds out about their dirty deeds against the NBA players, but unfortunately, they caught him red-handed. They give him a good beating and he later arrives at the Toons' locker room. Stan tells them what he had learned about those aliens and Michael tries to boost the team's spirits. While Bugs pulls a funny trick, he fills a bottle with water and pretends it's a super secret formula. He hands it out to all the characters, making them feel supercharged. It's all in their heads, but hypes them up enough. As soon as the second half starts, the Toons are filled with confidence. They turn the tables and start dominating the game. After a crazy comeback, They come close to tying the score, making the aliens call a timeout. During the break, Michael goes to the alien park owner and makes a bold bet. He puts his own life on the line, saying if his team wins, the NBA player's talent will be returned, but if the aliens win, he'll become their enslaved prisoner forever. With the deal sealed, the aliens go all in, playing even dirtier than before. It was like a Looney Tunes junkyard. They're desperate to win. However, with his team almost in shambles, Michael calls for a timeout to regroup, and he devises a plan and puts Stan in a crucial position. But as soon as Stan gets the ball, the aliens go apes, turning him to mush. With only 10 seconds left and one player down, the referee steps in to say if they don't find a fifth player, they'll lose the game, and just when things seem impossible, out of nowhere actor Bill Murray appears and he offers to lend a hand. After going over some tactics, they'll go straight to Daffy Duck and asks him to headbutt one of the aliens, and guess what? The alien drops the ball. Murray grabs it, passes it to Michael, who jumps high off an alien's back, and despite being held back by two opponents, Michael stretches his arm and slam dunks the ball right at the buzzer. The crowd goes bananas, the score flips a 77-78, and the Toon Squad snatches the victory in the very last second. Furious at his defeat, the evil park owner starts throwing insults at his employees, but they have got the upper hand now. They scoop him up and stuff him inside an Acme rocket, blasting him off to Moron Mountain. With the game over, the aliens keep their end of the bargain. They return the players' skills back into basketball, as they revert magically to their original shape and size. After the dust had settled, Michael bids farewell and returns to the human world back on Earth. He visits the athletes who lost their skills and asks them to touch the basketball, and like magic their talents were restored and they can finally get back to their careers. This brings the movie to a close. Thank you for watching, guys. Remember to please subscribe to this channel for more animated recaps. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we will be recapping an anime titled Wonder Woman. In ancient times, the Amazons, headed by the mother of Diana, Hippolyta, fight an ancient war against Ares, the god of war. As Ares is about to fight Hippolyta, he comments that she's coming right at him with such enthusiasm, just as she usually does whenever she's in his chambers. She sarcastically replies that she hopes he's as good as in the bed. The fight starts, and they are of equal strength. Meanwhile, every other lady of Amazon fights against the brutality of men, and as god of war, Ares reminds Hippolyta of the child she bore for him. She tells him she didn't give birth to the child, as she was forced into birthing him by Ares. She tells him she will kill the child, and she takes a horse and goes for Thrax, her son. She cuts off his head immediately before Ares reaches her. She takes advantage of Ares' confusion to attack him, gets him on his knees and attempts to kill him, but Zeus arrives. Zeus tells her she can't kill his son. She asks him where he was when Ares was destroying her city. He keeps talking to her, saying she can never kill his son. When Hera, the wife of Zeus and mother of Ares, arrives, she apologized to Hippolyta as for the way Zeus was talking to her. However, Hera gives her the opportunity to take Ares as a captive. She binds him with a chain that withholds his powers and tells her she can now control Ares. Hippolyta argues that her people have been destroyed and her city is gone, so what's the fate of her people? Hera says she has compensation for them and she will take them to a distant island where they will be able to hide from men forever. Hera offers Hippolyta the island of Themyscira. Hippolyta goes there and she molds a child out of the sand and she gives it life with her blood. A child she named Princess Diana. For years, the Amazons stayed on the island in isolation, retaining their young looks. Diana is now more mature and she practices with Artemis. As the duel continues, she wins the fight and she tells Artemis that she is weak, but Hippolyta comes out to tell Diana that when they were fighting, Artemis was among the best warriors. Artemis says she wishes for her opportunity to show her skills again, but Hippolyta prays that they will never have a reason to fight or entertain men again. Diana responds asking why can't they entertain men. She says that men might have changed, and if they can, they should relate better with them. Diana's best friend Alexa, an avid reader, also says that she wishes they could get involved with men again, even if it's for no other reason than getting more books. To convince Diana that men are the lowest of the low in the world, Hippolyta takes Diana to prison. As they enter the inner part of the prison, she shows Ares to Diana. As Diana sees him, she shivers. Ares says the shivering is necessary and says Hippolyta can't hold him captive forever. Hippolyta leaves with her daughter. On Earth, an American squadron goes to war with an opposition team. As they throw the bombs, Hippolyta feels the sound in her country. She looks into the mirror that connects them to Earth and says it's only when she touches that mirror that she misses the world she came from. She looks at the mirror and Artemis convinces her not to touch it. The fight in the airspace gets tougher and Captain Steve Trevor's plane gets damaged as a result. Hippolyta touches the mirror at about the same time and the island shows. Steve sees it, tries to land his damaged craft there but ends up landing in the water. He walks towards the stream where he sees several Amazon females having their baths. He watches in amusement until one of the females throws a spear at him. He tries to escape the females chasing and he falls into the water. He swims until he gets to another side of the mountain. On the other side, Artemis tells Diana that Hippolyta has instructed that she returns home, but Diana refuses the advice and goes to find Steve. She sees him and they fight. He comments about her strength and she knocks him down and binds him. She takes him home and he wakes up tied to a chair. Hippolyta tells him she has a question for him, but Steve says he won't answer any question. But Hippolyta tells him he doesn't have a choice. She uses the lasso of truth to determine if the Americans have plans for them. He tells them America doesn't know their country exists and he's only there by mistake. Artemis asks to kill him, but Hippolyta says Steve didn't do anything to them and they deserve to send him back to his world and they have to choose an escort for him. Diana volunteers to follow, but Hippolyta refuses. She tells her they will do their usual competition to pick an escort and she isn't qualified to compete. Persephone suggests that she follows her to Ares' holding to guard it. While Diana sits by the tree sobbing in anger, Alexa comes. She says that she has come to replace her and she tells her to cover her face and go to the competition. The competition starts with spear throwing, darts throwing, and horse racing before the physical fight. Meanwhile, at Ares' jail, Alexa tells Persephone that the man's presence could change their country, but Persephone stabs her from behind. After killing Alexa, she opens Ares' cage and brings him out. She kisses him and he tells her their long friendship has ended with a kiss. Eventually Diana wins the fight. She bows to her mother with her helmet on and when Hippolyta asks her to remove the helmet. If you are enjoying this recap, remember to subscribe to get notified whenever there is a new upload. Hippolyta sees Diana but she can't stop her at this point. The news of Alexa's death gets to the country. They go to the cage and Artemis tells Hippolyta that Diana has another duty on Earth. Diana prepares and follows Steve. As they land, she sees children and she has never seen one before and she sees a female child crying. She goes to meet the girl who tells her she wants to play games with the boys but they are rejecting her. She says she doesn't know how to sword fight and Diana teaches her how to sword fight. Steve tells Diana that his company has surveillance cameras that can make the search for Ares easier for her. So she follows Steve to his company. As they enter, they meet Etta who asks Steve to help her lift the table. Diana interferes and asks her what's wrong with her that she cannot lift the table. Diana lifts it with one hand and takes the pen. She follows Steve to his office and complains that women in their world are trained to be weak. After searching for signs of Ares, Steve asks her to wait for more crime signs, so she should follow him to a bar. They drink and he assumes she's drunk so he attempts to touch her, but she angrily walks out. As he apologizes outside, some thieves try to take their wallets. Diana fights them until they apologize to her. They notice another person coming. Steve offers to fight but they realize it's a demon. Diana figures he works for Ares and the demon introduces himself as Deimos. Diana fights Deimos until she subdues him, but as she attempts to get the truth about Ares' location with the lasso of truth, Deimos kills himself. She tails Ares to a hideout. Ares is planning to meet his uncle to remove his binds and he tells Persephone that his uncle won't voluntarily accept but he will convince him. They need a human sacrifice to open the Blue Gate. He takes Persephone's sword to stab one of his guards but Diana jumps in. Diana tries to stop Ares from opening the gate but she fails. He opens the gate where he meets some animals to refuse to grant Persephone entrance. He tells Persephone to stay by the gate while he goes to bargain with his uncle Hades. He tells his uncle that if he returns to the world with his powers he will send so many human souls to the afterlife that his uncle will have as many slaves as possible. He begs Hades to help him but Hades tells him that immediately after he breaks out of the jail, Zeus already came to beg him not to break the bind, However, Hades tells him he values family so that he will help Ares out. He gets rid of Ares' binds. Later, Diana wakes up at the hospital. She asks Steve if he was able to stop Ares, and Steve replies otherwise and says she might have died. She tells Steve that she doesn't care about her life, and as Amazons, they have been trained to die in battle. She insults Steve for giving the vision she has entrusted in his hands away to help her. She argues that he wouldn't have done such a thing if she was a male. He gets angry at her and tells her that the Amazons aren't perfect either. He tells her the acts of hiding away from the world is actually cowardice and stupid. They reconcile shortly afterwards. On the other hand, Ares gathers his followers in Washington. He instructs them to destroy the world. The news of trouble gets to the president, who tries to contact all their enemy nation, but the governments deny their involvement. Steve and Diana get to Washington. Diana goes to stop Ares, but Persephone pushes her into the hands of soldiers. Ares takes his sword to repay the evil Hippolyta did by killing his son, but the warriors of Amazon arrive in great numbers. They stop Ares from killing Diana and set out to fight. The government sees the troop from Themyscira and assumes the Amazons are the enemy in the fight. They send nuclear missiles toward Themyscira, but Steve stops it. Amid the commotion, Diana fights against Ares and beheads him. Steve returns, unites with Diana, and then kisses her. As Ares arrives in the underworld, Hades turns him into a slave. The Amazons return to their world, and when Hippolyta realizes Diana misses the world, she gives Diana the opportunity to fulfill her dream of being the bridge between Earth and their world. Diana accepts it and returns to Earth, where she is crowned Wonder Woman. Thank you for watching, guys. Please remember to subscribe to this channel for more animated recaps. Welcome back to our channel, guys. Today we will be recapping the movie Superman vs. Batman, Clash of the Titans. Spoiler alert, watch out and take care. In the city of Gotham, after facing a devastating alien attack a year ago, has started rebuilding, and their sister city Metropolis has aided them with a whopping $100 million. The mayor announces that Superman will personally deliver the funds, as Bruce Wayne and Damian, along with the reporter Lois Lane, watches the mayor's speech from the crowd. Soon the roof lifted, and there he was, the Man of Steel. Superman is welcomed by the mayor and the crowd with thunderous applause. He unveils a giant check worth $100 million, donated by the good people of Metropolis to the city of Gotham. Suddenly an invitee attacks, who Superman recognized as the villain Metallo. Armed with a kryptonite in his metal chest weakens the power of Superman greatly. Bruce Wayne and Damian quickly change into Batman and Robin to chase Metallo down to save Superman. Metallo takes Superman into an empty junkyard to beat him up, but Batman and Robin show up to defend Superman. As Metallo mocks Batman for not being able to overpower him, Batman signals the Batmobile to come into action. The Batmobile crashes Metallo into a wall and blasts him. Metallo emerges from the flames, but Batman shows Robin that they have been able to crack the kryptonite in his chest and jumps to attack him. Robin's Batarang was able to get the job done, and they are able to get their hands on the kryptonite. As Batman instructs Robin to take it away, Superman regains his strength quickly and comes to the aid of Batman, who is fighting with Metallo. He then punches Metallo into a crusher and powers him down. Batman doesn't hand over the kryptonite to Superman as he doesn't trust him. This, however, annoys Superman. Then he uses his X-ray vision to see who Batman really is. Bruce then tells him he is not very trusting, and stated not when it comes to kryptonite. Plus, he now knows Batman is the famous billionaire Bruce Wayne. In LexCorp, Luthor is furious at the loss of Metallo at the hands of Batman after equipping him with kryptonite, and plans his next move to take down Superman. Meanwhile, Batman reaches his new tech center inside Wayne Industries. A high-tech robot dressed in a bat suit armor appears, and it is revealed to be controlled by Lucius, CEO of Wayne Industries and Bruce Wayne's good friend. They discuss strategies, and Robin is excited to find a jetpack with a rocket launcher made for him. Batman goes through the surveillance data in Metropolis City to track down Superman to uncover his identity. Supersonic disturbances in the Metropolis atmosphere pinpoint to Daily Planet and Metropolis Garden Apartments. Batman deduces Superman's secret identity and his residence. The next day, when Clark enters, Bruce Wayne is already waiting inside his apartment, surprising him. Superman states that he is truly the world's greatest detective, completely forgetting about Sherlock Holmes. However, Bruce hands over the kryptonite that is coated in lead and safely packed in a box. Before taking his leave, Bruce invites Clark to join the Justice League. Soon after, Superman flies out to the outer atmosphere and throws the lead-lined kryptonite into the sun to burn it. In the next scene, it's Friday evening and Lois Lane is working late at Daily Planet. Without anyone noticing, Clayface enters the Daily Planet disguised as Clark Kent and abducts Lois. She is greeted by Black Mask in a limousine and they take off. Soon Superman flies to an abandoned warehouse to save Lois Lane, where Black Mask and his entourage is waiting for him. Black Mask shoots Superman with red sun energy beams which drain Superman of his powers. A weakened Superman is then attacked by Bane and Clayface, and finally Victor freezes him to make him totally incapacitated. However, with the minimal sunlight that he received, Superman breaks the ice only to realize he is still too weak to even defend himself. As Black Mask tries to shoot Superman again, Batman and Robin arrive. The Batarang strikes the beam gun and it thaws Victor Freeze. While Batman and Robin fight the criminals, Superman regains his energy by exposure to the yellow sunlight and fights back. If you are enjoying this recap, remember to subscribe to get notified whenever there is a new upload. Finally, they defeat the criminals, capture Black Mask, and save Lois Lane. Superman flies out after learning Lex Luthor is behind the whole thing. Meanwhile, Luthor has already hatched another scheme to take down the Man of Steel. Lex Luthor has captured Poison Ivy and is awaiting the arrival of Superman. Superman blasts through the door, but Lex, who is well prepared, shoves an enchanting gas made of spores of Poison Ivy and kryptonite to take control of Superman. During the night, Batman and Robin are watching over Gotham City. However, Batman's sixth sense tells him something is not quite right and suspects Superman to be in danger. He therefore goes to search Luthor's office with Robin. Batman finds kryptonite and plant spores residue and tracks Luthor down to his weapons factory. Batman finds Lex Luthor working on his new robot army with Mercy, his lady assistant. While sneaking into another part of the compound, Batman comes across Poison Ivy, who was imprisoned in a glass tube by Luthor. However, Clayface attacks, but Batman, who is always on alert, suddenly shoots a chemical compound and dehydrates Clayface, who is trying to sneak up on him. That is when the mastermind comes to the spotlight and reveals himself to Batman, although he knew from the very start it was Luthor who was behind all of this. Luthor presents a mind-controlled zombie-looking Superman, who only obeys him and explains his master plan to take control of Earth using his robot army, which he is going to deploy throughout the world. Just when Lex orders Superman to destroy the Bat, he quickly fires Batarangs to destroy the hypnotic device on Superman, causing the room to be filled with gas. Batman runs to the rooftop and Superman chases him using his X-ray vision. Superman easily overpowers Batman, and then Batman uses a piece of kryptonite that he kept in his belt to attack the Man of Steel. Just then both of them drop from the sky. However, Robin acts quickly and flies to rescue Batman with his jetpack while Superman makes a huge crash landing. Batman and Robin come to their secret Batcave outside of Wayne's mansion to get more kryptonite to equip themselves with. In no time, Superman tracks them down into the Batcave. Initially, Superman backs down to the power of kryptonite, which Batman uses against him but soon knocks it over. Batman arms himself in a robot batsuit to battle Superman and asks Robin to slow him down. Outside, Superman and Batman engage in a fierce battle, resulting in huge buildings to crumble and collapse. The Daily Planet, Gotham Times and GothCorp all arrive in helicopters to broadcast the clash of the Titans to the whole world. While the Man of Steel brings raw power to the ballgame, Batman levels the playing field using his technology and technique. Finally, Superman somehow manages to subdue Batman, but only to be attacked by Robin with his new rocket launchers. With the distraction Robin caused, they quickly escape into a warehouse and Batman uses atrazine gas to neutralize the effects on Superman by plant spore and kryptonite blend. A recovered Superman takes Batman and Robin to LexCorp's weapon facility, where Luthor is ready to launch his new robot army. Superman takes on the launched robots in the sky and battles them in midair. Superman succeeds in disabling their firepower and destroys multiple robots. Batman and Robin attack Luthor's command center, making Luthor retreat to cover. Meanwhile, Mercy, his assistant, defends him. Just then a gigantic armed robot emerges from the facility which has Luthor in its command center. Mercy is quickly subdued by Batman and Robin, and at the same time, Robin hits the robot with explosives with no effect. but Batman attached a specially made batarang which sends electrical signals that imitates a virus attack on the robot, leading to its system's failure. Superman attacks the failing robot from above and takes it down, much to the disappointment and anger of Lex Luthor as his master plan fails. After everything finishes, Batman is working on the Justice League's soon-to-be headquarters in the International Space Station. When Superman visits him with the recent events, Superman decides to accept the invitation to join the Justice League. Since now he understands the need for allies and, above all, the value of friendship. What do you think of this recap? Leave it in the comments section. Thank you for watching, guys. Please remember to subscribe to this channel for more animated recaps. Welcome back to the channel, guys. In today's video, I'm going to be recapping The Black Adam Returns. The movie begins with a couple driving home. On their way they saw a shooting star. The boyfriend tells her to make a wish as he wishes for them to be together forever, but the girl is terrified because the shooting star is heading towards them. Before they were able to do anything, it kills them. It obviously was not a shooting star. Instead, it is a godlike being called Black Adam who was finally returned to Earth after the 5,000 years of exile he was given. The scene changes to a young boy called Billy Batson who lives in a dilapidated apartment. After morning routine exercises, he goes to the kitchen to find something to eat but realizes he only has leftover potato chips, which he ends up feeding to the hungry rats. On his way to meet Clark Kent, who promises to buy him breakfast, he sees some bullies stealing from a homeless man. Billy interrupts them, telling them to let the man go, but in his attempt to defend the man he earns himself a black eye. The homeless man thanks Billy for trying to help him and gives him the nickname, Captain. Billy tells him that it is his way of living by always doing the right thing, and when he leaves, he gives the man the last coin in his pocket. Billy arrives at the restaurant where he sees a mountain of pancakes Clark had ordered just for him. The hungry young Billy started to devour the food, but Clark notices some bruises in his face and asked him what happened. Billy replies that this is what he gets for being good. His late parents had taught him to be good, but Billy began to feel being good just only keeps making his life miserable. Clark replies that someone being good doesn't always pay, but doesn't mean it's not the best thing to do. As the conversation continues, Black Adam arrives on the scene and breaks the diner windows with a clap of his hand. This throws Clark and Billy away. Black Adam smiles because he wasn't expecting his replacement to be a little child and reveals to Billy that the wizard has chosen him as the next champion and for that reason he must die. Clark tries to protect Billy, but a hit sends him through several layers of walls. Billy uses this opportunity to escape and he hangs onto the back of a fire truck in an effort to escape, but there was no way to escape as Black Adam picks up the truck. Clark changes into Superman and saves Billy from the truck Black Adam threw. A fight begins between Superman and Black Adam while Billy keeps running for dear life as far away as he can. With just a blast, Black Adam realizes that Superman is weak to magic and uses this to his advantage to gain the upper hand. However, Superman responds with the heat vision that Black Adam doesn't have. After Black Adam successfully restrains Superman, he continues chasing Billy, who runs into a subway not before bumping into the homeless man he helped earlier. If you are enjoying this recap, remember to subscribe to get notified whenever there is a new upload. The man gives him back the coin to return the kindness Billy showed to him. Billy is in front of a moving train with Black Adam still on his trail. Billy thinks he is going to die but finds himself inside the train. Black Adam left thinking the train already crushed Billy, but the coin the homeless man gave him suddenly began to glow and lightning started coming out from it. Inside the coin, Billy sees flashes of his past life with his parents and how he became an orphan. The train finally stops and as Billy gets out he finds himself in an enormous cave surrounded with the statues of 7 deadly sins. Billy's attention is diverted to an elderly man who introduces himself as Shazam and tells him that he has been chosen as his next champion. Shazam explains that thousands of years ago he chose a man called Black Adam as his champion, but instead of using the power he passed on to him in the right way, he started using it for his own personal gains and doing corrupt things. As a punishment, he banished Black Adam very far away from Earth, and now he has returned with no other motive but to get his revenge. He chose Billy because of his kind heart and tells him that whenever he is in trouble he only has to say his name Shazam and his powers will be embodied inside of him. Billy runs away as the wizard destroys the old cave. Black Adam is about to kill Superman, who is weakened by his magical powers, but Billy, with renewed confidence, confronts him. This time saying he should let go of Superman. He punches Black Adam in the stomach, which had no effect. Billy loses confidence and calls on Shazam's name to help him. A lightning struck Billy, transforming him into a godly being. While fighting Black Adam as an equally worthy opponent, he only had a few seconds to discover his powers, which were super speed, strength, and the ability to fly. He also discovers that randomly saying the wizard's name takes his powers from him. A recovering Superman is shocked after realizing Billy is Shazam. Black Adam causes a flood in the city to keep Superman busy and grabs one of the citizens by the neck, threatening Billy to change back to his original and vulnerable form where he will kill the woman. Billy had no choice but to obey, but Black Adam throws the woman to the sky before Billy could say the magic word. Black Adam covers his mouth to silence him. Out of nowhere, Black Adam is hit by the heat vision of Superman, who appears to have also saved the woman being thrown away. Superman had managed to stop the flooding by freezing it with his powers, and another fight begins. After turning himself back to Shazam, Billy figures that his kindness is holding him back from his true potential. With anger, he defeats Black Adam, but he didn't stop there. Billy wanted to also kill him. Superman tells him that it will make him no different from Black Adam. Billy lets go of Black Adam upon hearing Superman wisdom. Shortly afterwards, the homeless man shows up on the scene and reveals himself to be Billy's guardian angel. In a tiger form, he tells Billy and Superman not to worry because this time he will send Black Adam very far away, which will take him 10,000 years to return. This is a punishment Black Adam prefers to die than to receive, so he shouts Shazam and he is transformed to his original form. He is really old because of the thousands of years he has been gone and turns to dust and dies. Billy returns to his normal life but encounters those same bullies from last time. Billy smiles and calls the name Shazam and the movie ends. Thank you for watching, guys. Remember to please subscribe to this channel for more animated recaps. A city is demolished by the Hulk and Wolverine is sent to retrieve the Hulk. Welcome back to our channel, guys. Today we will be recapping the Hulk vs. Wolverine. Spoiler alert. Watch out and take care. The movie begins on a lonely mountain. Wolverine narrates about himself, claiming he says he's the best at what he does. Unfortunately, what he does isn't good. He's on the cold mountain with injuries and could not recall the cause, so he questions himself. Suddenly, he sees Hulk jumping at him. In that moment, he figures out what has happened, and it all started several hours ago. 4 hours ago, to be exact, Department H calls him to a location. As he travels on the plane, the officer asks him who he is, but he advises him that it is best if he does not know. They arrive at the location and they meet the head of Department H. He sees the cities in shambles. He asks the department head, who shows him the city's ruins of the small town and how devastating it was. He tells him a giant green creature has attacked the town and the creature is going towards the US-Canadian border. He says he thinks the force is involved in the calamity and that's why they've called Wolverine. Wolverine goes nearer to one of the cars in the ruins. He sees a toy and envisions what occurred. He also catches the Hulk's toxic smells. The Department H heads orders him to find Hulk and kill Hulk before he destroys another city. He takes the plane alone with some of the force members and they see a mountainside. They figure the Hulk is around the mountainside and they ask if they should stop the plane. But he refuses and jumps down. He walks through the snow and goes to the water. He takes a quick sip and sees the footprints of a huge creature. He assumes the footprints belong to the Hulk and he follows them until he gets to a mountainside where he climbs the mountain. As he climbs the mountain, he sees the human version of the Hulk. He is unaware that it is the same person who destroyed the city. In addition, he sees Bruce crying. He goes nearer to a timid-looking Bruce and asks if he has seen a huge creature around. Bruce, who assumes Wolverine wants to attack him, walks towards the rock and begs Wolverine to leave him alone. Wolverine is absolutely clueless that he is the creature and goes nearer to Bruce to ask about the Hulk. Wolverine pins Bruce to the rock and when he gets closer he smells the toxicity on him. Wolverine figures the person in front of him may not be a good person, so he brings out his claws and pins him to the rock and promises him death with the third and middle claw if Bruce doesn't come clean and state who he is. Bruce, who dislikes getting angry, eventually gets angry. He screams and changes from his human form, then tosses Wolverine like a salad. Wolverine stands up in an attempt to fight back, but Hulk is more powerful. Hulk pushes him to the falls. They fight submerged, but Hulk hits him out of the water and the fight continues. However, Hulk knocks Wolverine down but keeps hitting him and repeating that he's the strongest person on Earth and no one is as strong as him. Hulk walks away thinking he has defeated Wolverine. But Wolverine stands up and calls his attention back. Wolverine asks that they fight again, but suddenly they hear gunshots. Some superpower holders shoot the both of them, and the person that fired was Wilson. He calls Wolverine by his real name, Logan. While incapacitated, Wolverine remembers his past. He walks out of a bar drunk, and as he takes the last sip from his bottle, he sees an older man, the professor, looking at him. He asks the man why he is looking at him, but the man hits him. He calls for backup and they carry him away. Logan wakes up in an experimental cage. The professor asks his worker to switch on the adamantium on Logan, and this leads to the development of his ability. The professor is creating a team of fighters, which he calls warriors. Before Logan's process, one of the warriors named Sabretooth warns the professor about turning Logan into one of them and says it may not go as well as he thinks. As Logan's process continues, he changes form, he breaks out of the cage and kills all the security without breaking a sweat. He breaks through the barriers and gets to the professor, and he cuts his hands before jumping out of the building after killing some guards. As he wakes, he finds himself tied. The professor tells him they have been looking for the Hulk for a long time, and thanks to Department H, he was able to help them find him. He says the last city was a casualty that happened during one of their chases, and if Department H had sent Wolverine, the people wouldn't have died. He asked the professor what he wants to do with Hulk, and the professor tells him he wants to turn him into a weapon, just like he wants to make Wolverine a weapon. If you are enjoying this recap, remember to subscribe to get notified whenever there is a new upload. He tells him he will erase the memory of both Hulk and Wolverine, and they will work for him. Wolverine asks him to kill him now that he has the opportunity, because if he gets out he will kill all of them. As the professor leaves, Wilson approaches a blinded Wolverine and tells him that Deathstrike has attempted to kill him earlier and Deathstrike hates him especially. Wilson asks if he still has the iron head and hits him with a gun. Wolverine blacks out and wakes up in the experimental cage. He sees Deathstrike in front of him, and she tells him she will kill him whether the professor likes it or not. The professor arrives with Sabretooth and asks Deathstrike what she's doing there, then asks her to leave. He informs her he's about to erase Wolverine's memory, but Deathstrike attacks him and kills him. Deathstrike breaks Wolverine's cage, and she and Sabretooth prepare to kill Wolverine. Deathstrike attacks Wolverine. Sabretooth tells her not to kill him, but she releases her claws and stabs him. He regains his strength and fights back. He hits Deathstrike until she falls. He goes right after her and detaches her android hands since she's weak. He leaves the room and finds his way to where Hulk is locked. He sees Bruce in the cage and breaks him out. As Bruce comes out, he tells him to please save him. He says Hulk must not get into the hands of evildoers and begs Wolverine to help him out. Wolverine walks out with him, but on the way he tells him he doesn't care about his story. On the other hand, Sabretooth and Deathstrike call the other warriors. They see the professor on the ground, and Sabretooth lies that it was Wolverine who killed the professor. He says the professor has commanded them to kill Wolverine, and the others accept, unknown to them, that it's a trap. One of the warriors, Omega, who uses an electric whip, finds Wolverine and Bruce as they are about to escape. He jumps at Wolverine, but Wolverine protects Bruce. Eventually Wolverine subdues Omega for a while and sets out to run away with Bruce. He tells Bruce that the other enemies are coming, and he asks Bruce to bring Hulk out, but Bruce tells him he can't bring Hulk out. Bruce explained to him that he doesn't control Hulk and he can't direct Hulk, as Hulk only comes out whenever he's angry, and the drugs the professor has given him is stopping him from anger. To force Hulk out, Wolverine stabs Bruce and leaves him there. Wolverine goes to fight their enemies. He starts with Sabretooth and hits him before moving to Deathstrike. However, when he loses control, Omega carries him with his electric web and prepares to electrocute him. Luckily Hulk wakes, and he hits Sabretooth out of the building and pushes Deathstrike away. Then Wilson and Omega attempts to attack him. Omega uses his second whip on Hulk, allowing Wolverine to escape from the first whip. Eventually Hulk defeats the enemies and then sets out to attack Wolverine, who reminds him that they are on the same side. Hulk doesn't reply. He keeps chasing Wolverine, then Wilson comes from behind to throw an explosive into Hulk's mouth, hoping he will die. Wolverine tells Wilson that he has only succeeded in making Hulk more angry. The bomb explodes, but Hulk survives. As Hulk attempts to attack Wolverine again, Wolverine throws Wilson at him. While Hulk fights Wilson, Wolverine escapes, but Omega climbs into the building to attack him. Deathstrike also returns to fight Hulk. She scratches Hulk's body and that gets him irritated. She keeps jumping over him and cutting him until he eventually gets hold of her and rips her hands off. He goes to find Omega, who's fighting Wolverine, and hits Omega to the wall. He prepares to destroy the laboratory and eventually does. But before it explodes, Wolverine jumps out. After the building explodes, Hulk comes out and jumps to fight Wolverine again. Thank you for watching, guys. Please remember to subscribe to this channel for more animated recaps. Part 2 of this movie begins with a couple and a baby who are being chased by a clan called the Tarkatans, but Lord Raiden appears and saves the couple's baby before the mother gives her last breath. It turns out it was baby Liu Kang. Years after the conclusion of the Mortal Kombat tournament, the king of the Nether Realm named Shao Kahn commanded his army to attack the Earth Realm, which was being protected by Kung Lao, Stryker and Jax. They are at the borders trying to prevent the army from breaching the gates. While Johnny Cage, Sonya Blade, Liu Kang and Lord Raiden are busy fighting off Shao Kahn's best warriors, Kitana, Kintaro, Reiko and Baraka. Shao Kahn himself appears in a blast and stops the fight, and recommending a deal to end the bloodshed against their realms permanently. He wants Lord Raiden to travel along with him to see the Elder Gods, requesting permission for another tournament, the final Mortal Kombat, to stop the endless cycles of brutality. Raiden agrees to Shao Kahn's proposal without hesitation and goes along with Shao Kahn to meet the Elder Gods. Scorpion finds himself in the Nether Realm after his fight with Quan Chi, and he is confronted by a Grandmaster Shinnok. Shinnok explains that the key Scorpion took from Shang Tsung is now bound to his soul and threatens him to go to the Earth Realm and enter the Temple of Elements to help him steal a special artifact. Scorpion denies his request and runs away to the Earth Realm. Shinnok orders his soldiers to hire the Lin Kuei clan to capture him. In the Lin Kuei temple, the master in the temple gives Kuai Liang and Smoke the mission to capture Scorpion. The master reveals the other two of his warriors called Cyrax and Sector, who he is now transformed into a cyborg's form. Scorpion is the most dangerous ninja warrior in existence, so the master orders Cyrax and Sector to forcefully turn Kuai Liang and Smoke into one of them so they can all be capable in capturing Scorpion. Kuai Liang manages to escape, but Smoke is left behind and is being initiated by the cyborgs. Raiden and Shao Kahn show up in front of the Elder Gods to seek their permission for a final tournament between the realms. Raiden also appeals to them to take away his immortality and godly powers so he can participate in the tournament as a contestant on behalf of Earth Realm. The Elder Gods agree to their request, and Raiden goes back to the Earth Realm as a normal human being and immediately gathers all his champions to join the tournament. After all his champions enter the portal, Scorpion meets with Raiden, revealing all the evil plans of Shinnok. Raiden tells him that the artifact Shinnok wanted him to steal is called the Kamadagu, that has the power to release the One Being into the world. Raiden is now human, so he has no power to separate Scorpion's soul from the key, so he advises Scorpion to hide himself so he won't be spotted by Shinnok. Raiden and his champions are transported to the fortress of Shao Kahn, who introduces them to his warriors in the tournament: Li Mei, Shang Tsung, Kitana, Devora, Baraka, Reiko, and Jade. As the tournament begins, Johnny Cage is defeated by Devora without him getting to fight. Liu Kang defeated Jade with a very deadly punch. Stryker wins his fight against Baraka with his very unique fighting skills. Sonya Blade defeats Li Mei by brutally smashing her head to the ground, while Kintaro is killed by Jax. Back at the Earth Realm, Scorpion was ambushed by the cyborgs, Sector and Cyrax, who are later joined by Cyborg Smoke. Though skillful, Scorpion is outnumbered and defeated by the cyborgs, who captures and takes him to the gates of the temple, forcing him to use the key and opening the gates. The cyborgs were about to kill him after he opened the gates, but Kuai Liang freezes the cyborgs because he intends to kill Scorpion himself to avenge the death of his brother Sub-Zero. After an epic showdown between the two, Scorpion convinced Kuai Liang to protect the artifact against the cyborgs, who are planning to resurrect the destroyer of the world. Scorpion and Kuai Liang were both defeated, and the cyborgs took the artifact and escaped to the Nether Realm. Back at the tournament, Raiden finishes off his opponent Reiko. Sonya wins her fight against Devora. Shao Kahn effortlessly defeated Jax, while Shang Tsung defeated Stryker with a fatality. In the final round, Kung Lao fights with Shao Kahn, who easily uses his weapon to tear him to shreds. while Kitana engages in a combat with Raiden and spares his life after a brief fight and betrays Shao Kahn by attacking him. Shao Kahn imprisoned Kitana after giving her the beating of her life. Meanwhile, Liu Kang fights with Shang Tsung, who disables his left arm using his magic, but despite this disadvantage, Liu Kang still wins the fight and decided to spare Shang Tsung's life. However, the master of the Lin Kuei clan arrives with his cyborgs and delivers the artifact to Shinnok, but later wants to fight him after he reveals his evil plans on bringing the One Being into the world. If you are enjoying this recap, remember to subscribe to get notified whenever there is a new upload. Just as the Master and his cyborgs were killed by Shinnok's monsters, Scorpion and Kuei Liang arrive, but they are unable to stop Shinnok from resurrecting the One Being. On the other hand, Raiden engages in a final fight with Shao Kahn. Raiden displayed some really good skills but was no match for Shao Kahn's punches. Raiden was sadly killed by Shao Kahn, and as Liu Kang sees the only father figure he knows being killed in such a way, he furiously goes to fight Shao Kahn. This fight was the most legendary in the tournament, with Shao Kahn gaining the upper hand at first until Liu Kang went Super Saiyan with his fire technique, which he furiously uses to overpower Shao Kahn in the fight and eventually kills him with one final kick, leaving the whole crowd in shock for winning the Mortal Kombat tournament. The Elder Gods appeared in front of Liu Kang and rewarded him with the power of a god to fight against Shinnok. Shinnok has already ascended to god level by fusing himself with the One Being and is about to destroy all the realms with his godly powers. Liu Kang teleported Johnny, Sonya, Jax and Kitana to the Nether Realm to stop Shinnok and his army. They are later joined by Scorpion and Kuei Liang. Liu Kang transforms himself into a gigantic dragon and engages in one-on-one combat with Shinnok, while the others join the military in fighting Shinnok's army. Shinnok gains the upper hand, but with Scorpion's and Kuei Liang interference, Liu Kang was able to defeat Shinnok and returns the Earth realm back to normal. That brings the movie to a close as we see Johnny Cage receiving a kiss from Sonya. But the champions are left unsettled because Shao Kahn's body is nowhere to be found. Raiden is revived and gets his godly powers back and watches over the champions from afar. Thank you for watching, guys. Remember to please subscribe to this channel for more animated recaps. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we will be recapping The Reign of Superman. The film starts at about 6 months after the death of Superman. The world is still shaken by the death of the son of Krypton, better known to humans as Superman. However, there has arisen some mysterious Supermen around the city fighting crime, saving people, dodging bullets, and turning war missiles towards space. The most renowned of the heroes so far are Superboy, Steel, the Eradicator, and Cyborg Superman, each having different crime fighting styles, but they all dress like the Man of Steel. Following this news, reporter Lois Lane is seemingly devastated by the loss of her lover Clark Kent, and she cries whenever she sees their pictures. Clark's parents are there to comfort her, and the father thinks that he might not really be gone. According to some details by a news reporter on the TV, Superman's body disappeared, and everyone is speculating that the new guys could actually be Superman Reborn. Lois Lane then decides to look more into the matter and to even ask the Supermen some questions. Later, Lois meets up with Wonder Woman, hoping for some information from the Justice League concerning the new guys in town, but Diana has nothing on the new Superman and they share an ice cream. Later that evening, Lois Lane attends Lex Luthor's press conference about rebuilding their city, in which Luthor introduces the new Superman called Superboy, supported and financed by LexCorp. Lois then sneaks into the LexCorp labs, where she learns from a scientist called Donovan that the new Superman is a clone, and Lex Luthor finds them. Luthor explains that he hoped Lane could rebound with him after Superman's passing, but his lines are interrupted by another Superman called the Eradicator, who is primarily here to eradicate the criminal Lex Luthor. Superboy steps in to fight the Eradicator, but he is too great a menace for him. Another Superman called Steel also joins the party with his rocket hammer, but the Eradicator defeats him and he now turns to Luthor. Luckily, he is again helped by the other version of Superman called Cyborg Superman, who is angry at the Eradicator for claiming he is the only Superman. However, the Eradicator escapes during the fight. Later, Lois Lane releases a report of her findings about Superboy being a clone. Meanwhile, the robots in Superman's Fortress of Solitude watch the report, and one of the robots asks that Kal-El should not be awakened since he is severely depleted and is undergoing an ion radiation transfer. Later, Lois Lane meets up with Cyborg Superman, who claims to be the real Superman since he activated his genome to rebuild before he died. Lois, however, doesn't really believe he is the actual Superman, and Cyborg Superman flies away after telling her to believe in his goodwill for the people. Following this, the Supermen continue with their crime fighting and saving people. Lex Luthor is however disappointed that the crowds are treating his Superman as a clone and not the real Superman, and he plans to relaunch him again. Later, the president launches the new Justice League Watchtower, and the Justice League members are monitoring the area, and they meet with Superboy, who is now the presidential head of security, while Cyborg Superman watches from the skies. While President Joan Dale is giving a speech, a boom tube portal appears and several monsters come out of it, and they begin to terrorize everyone. The superheroes fight them back, and during the fight Superboy gets overwhelmed and the creatures then turn to attack the president. Thankfully, Cyborg Superman rescues her and flies her away to a safe place. The boom tube then collapses and falls on the gathering members of the Justice League, appearing to have killed them as everyone watches in disbelief. Following this, President Dale holds a memorial in honor of the Justice League and also honors Cyborg Superman's heroic actions, as he is now termed as the real Superman Reborn. This angers Lex Luthor, since they blew the opportunity for his boy to be called Superman. In the lab, Superboy learns from scientist Donovan that he is a clone with both the DNA of Superman and Luthor. Donovan convinces Luthor to keep the boy since he has yielded better results than previous versions, but Luthor later fires him and unleashes other clones to attack him. A while later, Cyborg Superman visits the grave of Terry Henshaw, where he receives a telepathic message from his master Darkseid, who asks him to quit the emotions since they have work to do. Lois Lane later visits the cemetery and learns of Cyborg Superman's visits and finds it suspicious. She then heads to steal Superman's home and discovers he is a normal person. As John Henry Irons, a genius who built a mechanized suit of armor resembling Superman. John explains Superman once saved his life and now he repays him by fighting crime when he is away. The two then research about the Henshaw couples, who were astronauts who died in the Space Shuttle Excalibur incident, but their bodies went missing. Finally, Lois Lane deduces that Cyborg Superman is actually Henshaw and not the real Superman. Following the recent death of the Justice League, Cyborg Superman announces to the world the establishment of a new stronger league called the Cybercorps, composed of regular people which he picks from among the crowd of volunteers